Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 245. It is the end of fall here in the Midwest. We're in the Midwest. We're in Ohio, so we've got great weather today and tomorrow, Friday, and then Saturday, the basement falls out. Next week, we will probably be a lot more bundled up than you see us this week, which it's fine.
It's going to be 20 degrees.
Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I'll be in Chicago this weekend, and I'll be freezing my ass off in Soldier Field. It's fine. Everything's cool. I want to thank our sponsors this week and as we round out this year. So hopefully we'll continue to have some great sponsors. First and foremost, you guys, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. And that's where you guys can contribute to the show monthly as long as you'd like. There's $5, $10, and $25 tiers on there. And there's some bonuses that come along with that. If you want to do a one-time contribution, Venmo @Bourbon and BS. If you guys want us to drink something in particular, contribute for something specific, go ahead and use that avenue. That's going to be a little bit easier to do. So check those out. And then also Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. That's our home shop. If you guys don't have a brick and mortar nearby, check them out. Tinderbox at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. They're going to be able to ship to you. If you're in the area, definitely stop by, grab a smoke, stock up, sit down, relax, hit the Irish pub next door, Fido on the patio. Not next week, but this week if you're in town. And light up a cigar, enjoy a drink and some food. Altadis USA, typically Altadis USA, they're going to be providing our second cigar for part two. So second cigar of the night. Tonight, we've got something a little bit different going on, so we'll explain that momentarily. But Altadis USA, Josh Bentley, everyone there, we appreciate that support continuously. And also BS Cigar Company, the gold and silver are available. The gold is made by Plasencia. The silver is made by Espinosa. So check those out as well. They are featured at Tinderbox at Easton. And again, they can ship to you directly. So just check them out. So also buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. I've got a BS 3/4 sleeve on that's available on there. Nate's got the podcast shirt. Pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. I'm working on trying to get a holiday shirt, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So we'll see what we can do there. But yeah, byjack.com/Bourbon and BS for any of this apparel. I've got one of the Barrelhead black camo hoodies.
That's what I got with me as well.
Yeah, I love that one. So, yeah. All right, tonight we have a special guest on remotely, not in the garage, obviously, but I'm going to bring him on here. Let's hear it for Mikey Zahn. How are you, man?
Good. How are you two?
Good. You're a little bit muted there. Can you turn your volume up on the mic at all?
Yeah, no problem. I can give you as much as you want.
Give it to
there.
Me. There we go. Hold down.
Hold down. How about there? Good.
About 5% down. We're good. Okay.
Okay. There.
Perfect. That's perfect. All right. So perfect. Mikey, I said the last name right, Zahn.
Yeah, you got it.
Perfect. So Mikey is joining us from. You're in Wisconsin now.
Yep.
Okay. So
born and raised in Wisconsin.
Okay. So, and Mikey, if you could kind of give a little bit of background for yourself, like your elevator speech type thing, your background before the industry, now in the industry. You said you've been in the industry for a little over 10 years, I believe. Mm-hmm. So yeah, give us a little bit of brief background, if you would.
Started smoking cigars with Dad's friends when I was late high school, 18. Started going to cigar shops with them. It was kind of like a mentoring thing. They used it as a tool to just like spend time with me, make them more interesting, I guess, to hang out with. Because when you're, 17, 18-year-old kid, you're not like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with my dad and his friends today. That's not normally a thought. And so I would get together for dinner with my dad and them every week, and we'd have a cigar. And so when I finally was able to get out and go, graduate, all those things, I started going to a local cigar shop. Local is 45 minutes away, but that's the closest one I could find. And so we started going out there every week. And then next thing you know, some buddies that I played in bands with were like, let's get a cigar sometime. So we ended up stumbling upon Lake Country, and then I've been there ever since. So basically 2010, 11, 12-ish, started full-time in the industry, or at least part-time in the industry, running around, helping with the shop duties, opening and closing on weekends, running the shifts. And then from that point in about 2014, I went and moved down to Honduras, and I lived down there with Rocky's crew, and I learned to bunch and roll cigars at the Plasencia factory in El Paraíso. And then I came back from that, and I went right back to like working full time. And then part time at the cigar shop was basically my, until 2016 when I got hired at Alec Bradley, was the first like chance I got to get that full time and jump into the industry.
It's a pretty big move going down to Honduras.
Yeah, it was a wild one. It's a good time. And so,
what brought that
passion. I loved the product. I loved cigars. Lake Country to me is a special place. A lot of the people are really special. And like, I learned a lot just from being around them since I was, 18 years old. The whiskey wisdom, the morning coffee wisdom, everything. You get, sorry, an alarm went off on my phone.
All good.
Yeah, I gained so much value because I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go, right? I want to play music with my friends and like climb trees every day. I did that for like 6 years of my life. And then next thing you know, it's like, I need something to open up. And I kept working and kept pushing at the cigar shop throughout the years. And when the owners at the time were ready, they put my name in a hat and I got it. So, well, my friend Jonathan Walsh called me and said, I'm changing territories. Would you be interested? So I don't think that Don and ML, who were the owners of the shop at the time, who I love dearly, they weren't ready for me to go and start repping at 19, 20. They were like, nope, you have a lot more to learn. You have more to grow and more to take in. And so they kind of kept me working my normal job and at the shop and teaching me to the point I could go off on my own. And it was great. I learned a lot. So that's like the first, 6 years of the game was just trying to get in.
Gotcha. So where are we at now? So you had reached out to the show by way of, in a sense, Calvin Woods, who's a friend, mutual friend. He's in the industry as well. And, you had reached out and said, hey, love to hook up with you guys. You have this project called Mikey Lights It Co. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where you're at. But I mean, you're doing some other things. Can we start with the Mikey Lights It Co? We are both smoking. So I'm smoking an HVC, and it's the Edition Especial 2018. Both of you guys are smoking the HVC 2015, correct?
Yes.
So you had mailed us these two packages. Well, one package with these two different packages in there, and one was, I think, August. One was September stamps on there. Open them up, and there's 5 cigars in here. There was a Boveda in there. I thought it was very cool packaging, as far as it had like a box lid to give it some stability.
Yeah.
And then in the inside, like then you have, it was very plain. And do you have one with you there, like the way?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab it right from here.
Yeah, go ahead and grab it. And then on the inside, basically, guys, it's got a Ziploc bag with the 5 cigars. It's a variety pack, 5 different companies. And then it's got the sticker on there, and there's a Boveda in there. So I'm going to put you solo here so people can see that.
Bad lighting.
It's all right. But you guys can see it. I mean, it almost looks like it's like a wrapped up steak.
Or like a giant chocolate bar.
Yeah, chocolate. But
the goal was to be a parcel, like an old, you get it, like you'd get a little gift in the mail. It wasn't in a Macy's box right away. It was just wrapped in some, sturdy construction paper or some sort of paper, and then passed or tied in a ribbon and sent down the road with the card, right? So that was kind of more so the thought, was to make something that when you get it, you hold it in your hand, it feels good. The weight feels great. The box as a back, reused box on the back, makes it so that it's like
basically
much
it's just
more
a box.
sturdy.
I think the ones that we had were just like the slide top box tops.
No,
right?
they were broken off. One was a Padron 1926 box lid, and then the other one was
nub. Anyway, basically, yeah, you're using like parts of the box to give it that stability to help protect the cigars, which I think is pretty brilliant.
Just in the shipping, you asked me earlier, and I get it. It's very confusing. We do sell to consumers online. We do retail to someone. Say someone's in Alaska and doesn't have a store, or say someone's, too far up in Minnesota that there's no shop up there that they can get any cigars from. I still want them to get it. And I had friends down in Texas and over in Nevada who were like, oh, this is great. It made them go find a local shop to start smoking at. And they haven't bought from me since. So it must have been great. And that's kind of like the best of everything, get them plugged in, get them somewhere where they're enjoying, kind of just the habit of sitting down and thinking for a few hours.
Sure. And what brought this project on, the Mikey Lights It Company?
So months ago, we were approached to work with some of our friends on a magazine they were working on called ATF Lifestyle Magazine. And
we know them very well.
And so Alec is a friend of mine for many years. I sold him his first cigar. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, hey, I would like for you to write for us. And I was like, well, you've never seen an email from me. They're the worst. Yeah. And like, you don't get texts from me every day, like, trust me, they're not the best. But we kept talking about it. And then one of my friends who's a really great writer and knows me well, I was like, hey, what do you think? Would you be interested in writing, for these articles? And we can work together and kind of come up with topics or things we're interested in or industry things we're interested in. And then we can just tie in like, well, here's kind of like who I am and experiences and thoughts in the industry that way. And he's like, that's great. And it was like, well, let's figure out how to make it so let's try something. Let's give something a whirl. I have an idea for a way to increase sales with, some of my wholesale accounts, as well as just some of consumer friends that don't have anywhere to go where they live. Because, you're in the industry long enough, you run a few territories for a company, you meet people at hotel bars, you meet people, at the restaurant you like to go to before you go back to the hotel. And so like these people didn't have places to get cigars. They're always like, Mikey, do you have any cigars? Can I get any cigars from you? And fast forward, when I'm not on the road, that's when I actually have the cigars to sell.
I got you.
But yeah, so that's what we do. I spend a lot of time picking out the cigars in them every single month. It's because if it's a customer coming into the store, right, from a retail perspective, say Jim comes in and he's like, Nate, Steve, I want something mild but something new, and you give him something mild and new that you really think he's gonna like, and he doesn't like it, I can't just say, hey, Jim, I'm sorry, I don't. Here's more cigars from my stash. I won't get that person-to-person interaction that's so important. I won't get that lifeline back if I don't put something that I really can't stand behind in one of the cigar parcels.
Right.
And
that makes sense. So yeah, Ray Cheshire asks, so Mikey Lights is an online operation or brick and mortar?
We do both. And so I try right now, at least in the Midwest, wholesale to a few stores. So that way that they're also gaining benefit. Because the issue with online cigar sales for me has always been not giving the retailer a way to compete and or a way to keep their customer. If you're getting 30 cigars from whoever, wherever the hell it is, for $30, and you go into a lounge and it's like, hey, can you get me something? They're going to be like, wait, this is $7, $8, $9, $10. What makes this so special? So sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, we wanted to make it so that our retailers or people that I would be in competition with in my area could actually just work with me if they're interested. And it would be a way for them to try out some new cigars maybe their store didn't carry and their customers really like, and then we can get them those boxes.
Gotcha. So basically you're an online operation for consumers if they want to go to a website, correct?
Yep.
And we can share that. What's the website? Just, on the audio here.
Mikey Lights It Co.
Mikey Lights It Co. So
instead of just dot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And then you work for also a shop in the area, correct? And a wholesaler.
Yeah, I do. I work for a wholesaler out of Minneapolis called Winter Tobacco, and I run the state of Wisconsin for them, as well as focus on premium cigars. So I've been with them for about 4 years. I actually used to work with them when I was a rep at Alec Bradley Cigars, and we hit it off really well. So when that ended, they're like, "Hey, come on board," and kind of came up with the position. And so that I deal with premium cigars every single day, all day,
Yeah.
on a sales side.
Okay. So how did you pick this? So again, in both these packs, we have an HVC. And how do you pick what goes in these packs? I mean, is it something that they can pick online, or is it just basically, this is the current available pack, or how does that go? Do you advertise what's in the pack online? Do you update that, or is it just pure, blind? Like, I'm gonna pay. What'd you say? How much was it?
$60.
So $60. I'm just gonna like blindly give you $60, and you're gonna send me some cigars, or do they know kind of what they're getting? Is there some?
They
options?
know before they go up for sale anywhere. Even if the wholesale gets them right away, like we always have a sell sheet with it that goes with the box that shows the configuration inside. So what brand and size and all of that is always put out. Same with tasting notes on like our website.
Got it.
So
Jonathan Herring put it up on the feed there.
Thanks, John.
Yeah. Do you know John?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good guy. Good guy. So like I said, is there a reason you pick certain cigars in here? I mean, like, again, there's an HVC in both of them. Is there a reason?
So
these are
something from Revival Cigars.
Something from Revival Cigars, which I'm not familiar with. But I mean, one pack, you got a La Roma, Passion. You got My Father, it looks like Cedro Deluxe, and then the Tatuaje Avion.
Yeah.
Avion. And
I
then
don't
you
know
got
how to say
Oliva
it.
G in the other one. You got a La Galera, and then what's the other one?
Boondock Saints from Black Label.
Black, yeah.
Black and Gold or Black Works.
Yeah. Is there a reason that, again, that you pick these out, or what's the method to the madness here?
So that's a weird 2 months because we were writing in the magazine about our articles were centered on, 2 months basically. We talked about brother and sister cigars that I think are like the same family, which would be
ATF, right?
Yes. And so the HVC and the Revival in I think it was August, I was like, we should talk a little bit about cigars and how, different blenders palettes are so wide that you can actually get different results. And I always use back in the day, it'd be Liga 9s and T52s. I'd say that the 9 is the sister to the 52 because the 52 had more spice and body to me, but that 9 was so velvety and good. So I use that terminology all the time with cigars. So if there's, especially the 18 and 15 HVC Especials, I always say, this is the sister, the 2018, this is the brother, the 2015. If you like this, you should try this. It's going to be a different profile, but I really think it has a lot of great flavors. And I smoke a lot of cigars that have that, like the Capa Especial Tatuaje 7th. Like, I love that. And I love it in the broadleaf, and that would be another perfect brother-sister cigar, but I couldn't get enough product to make it work for those.
So this is something that, are you utilizing cigars from the wholesale side of things? Is it linked that closely, or are these a totally separate quantity of cigars, batch of cigars?
Totally separate.
All right, so that, like, the Mikey Lights It and Company is completely separate entity. You're not pulling from Winter wholesale inventory.
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay.
We have to have it sold specific ways. So for me, I always want the tax included, which Winter does do, but I just don't. Yeah, we work with local shop to help with all of that stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll buy from them through the business, but it's kind of a mix because I like a lot of things we wouldn't carry as a wholesaler. I'm not going to get, Boondock Saints into Winter. Not only has it not been made for 3 years, but also, like, good luck finding it. Good luck getting enough quantity to, like, supply stores if we were to push it.
Yeah.
And so it's not all one spot. It's got to be kind of moved.
What kind of, I mean, and you don't have to share, but I mean, what kind of volume are you doing on a monthly basis? You had said that you're looking at changing from a monthly subscription, or at least a monthly, like, shipment type of a thing, because of how things have been changing for you. But I mean, is there a ballpark, or do you not feel comfortable saying how much you're typically sending out at this point? How many packages?
I think at our first month, we probably moved, I don't know, 60 plus
Okay.
parcels. And then between wholesale and other things, the next few months, we still moved, I don't know, a box here every once. It wasn't a crazy lift off.
Okay.
We moved a lot because we had a lot of ways to have face, and there was events and things going on to be a part of.
Yeah.
And then, the machine is always going if you're in the industry 100% of your time. And so half the frustration of just launching and getting things moving was trying to figure out how to do that without changing too many of the cogs at once. You go from I'm doing this, and then I have relaxation time, and then I have time with my family or whatever, to less time of that.
A lot of moving parts, right?
Yes.
So it's still fairly new, right? I mean, this is something that you're trying to turn into a primary function, but right now it's on the kind of the entry level of your energy, basically, I assume.
Yes, it is entry level, and that's kind of why when talking to friends, like I said, you get wisdom at a store, right? Like my store, there's a lot of very smart people that I met throughout the years and I trust. And just the other day, one of my friends asked me, "Hey, how's everything going?" I was like, "It's going good. Everything's going good. But like, I need to pivot. I need to figure something out. There's some cog that isn't working correctly for me, and I need to figure out how to either eliminate it or like move it." And so he's been in business for 12, 13 years successfully, his own small business. And he was like, "Mikey, you said my word, pivot.
Yeah.
I need to pivot so many times. And if you can do that and assess and figure out those issues, you're going to be just fine. Just keep always looking for that piece that can be, fine tuned." And so,
absolutely.
That's when we're sitting and we're meeting. All of us have full-time jobs and lives. And when we get together and, we start talking and trying to figure out what to move to or how to change it to make it work better. It takes, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. And
That's
so
another good saying there. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And so you guys talked a few weeks ago about talking like everybody, it was with Terrence. He's like, everybody's job's easy, and it's like, that's not, no one has the easier job. Everybody just has the job.
Yeah.
And like, you can like strive to get the different job if you want, but you're going to figure out real quick that it's still a job.
Yeah, it's always going to be a job. Yeah, we did talk about that. And oddly enough, you bring up Terrence. That was last week. And he is with Aganorsa. If you guys haven't checked that episode out, it is now available on the podcast apps, whatever you guys listen to. We hope you subscribe and review and like and all that stuff. We really appreciate that. I'm talking iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, a bunch of others as well. And the video is available on YouTube and also on Facebook still, which brings me just a quick segue for what we're smoking tonight. HVC is a company, and Lorenzo, correct? You said?
Yes.
So it's something where Lorenzo, or no, is it Rainier Lorenzo or Lorenzo Rainier?
Rainier Lorenzo.
Yeah, Rainier Lorenzo. So I met him 2015 down at the time it was Casa Fernandez. Terrence Riley from last week is kind of the face, and he's also VP at Aganorsa Leaf, which is what we talked about last week of their transition. We talked about what's in a brand and what's in a name and all that stuff. These HVCs are coming out of Aganorsa Leaf, which is a kind of an interesting segue there. But I'm smoking something a little bit more familiar for those that we smoked the Corojo Aganorsa Leaf last week. So what I'm smoking is the HVC Edición Especial 2018, which is that Corojo 99 from Aganorsa Leaf over Nicaraguan tobacco filler and binder, and that's made at the Tapsa, which is the Nicaraguan factory that we talked about last week from Casa Fernandez. Do you know the blend of this one?
I know it's San Andreas wrapper.
Which is a lot of the Maduros that come out of Aganorsa Leaf is going to be that San Andres Mexican wrapper over Nicaraguan filler and binder.
Probably, like Terrence said, probably utilizing a lot of their Corojo and Criollo.
It is, yeah. Corojo 99 and Criollo 98. Those are the two big ones. And he talked about that whole, I forget what he called it, but it was basically the tasting experience that they offer, where they basically smoke
they have
like
fumas.
Fumas.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
they smoke the little fuma, which is basically just a little, like almost like cigarette size. It's all Corojo 99 or Criollo 98. And you kind of look for those flavors in that. But it is, if I'm not mistaken, is all of HVC stuff, do you know this, Mikey? Is it all coming out of Aganorsa Leaf? I think he's primarily working with them. I think he has an office with them.
I know that they've been working together for seems like forever, but Lorenzo opened. He has his own factory that he opened now.
Did he really? Okay.
Yeah, that's where like the I'll get the box.
Well, I know that when I met him, it was literally at the factory because he was upstairs and he was at a desk. Basically, again, it's like if he's been in business, I mean, it's not been it's like a decade or so, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he was still in Madison. I mean, back when I started, which was 11, 12, 10.
Yeah. Oh, founded in 2011. So when I met him in 2015 or so, he had only been in business doing this. It was very new. It was 4 years,
yeah.
And he was upstairs and he was kind of working at a desk, and we were kind of taking a quick tour because we were sampling some stuff for at the time it was the BS Gold at the time. And he, was kind of up there, and they just introduced us, and he's like sitting there working. He stood up and he's like, "Yeah, I do HVC." He's like, "Oh, cool." So to see where he's at now, it's really cool. What'd you have to show there? A box?
Yeah, the HVC. It won't show well. The Selection number 1 I think is coming out of his factory now.
Show again.
It won't show well.
All right.
It's flipped. Yeah, but it's a beautiful.
No problem.
Smoke. So yeah. This
Oh well. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you obviously you said you liked these before we got on there.
Yeah, I love this cigar. I've smoked 200 easily of both of them over the years. I used to smoke one every day. It'd be like my coffee in the morning, go see accounts, light one up, get there, work, light one up, the next day. I'd change depending on my mood. Some days I wanted the 2015. I want a little bit more of that cocoa, that pepper with my coffee. And then some days I want a nice smooth 2018. And I always like buying boxes of them because they're 50 count. And then I could just you have those for forever, it seems like, unless you smoke as much as I used to. And so, yeah. I sit on them. And so, and I love Lorenzo and I love Terrence. They're great. I get the pleasure of working with them, both of them. I wish I got to talk and hang out with them more because they're awesome. And so, yeah, big fan of everything HVC and Aganorsa.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aganorsa Leaf to that point too.
We sell a lot of Aganorsa Leaf in the Midwest.
Do you?
Yeah, since we
started
carrying them. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like we talked to Terrence last week. I mean, it's like just they've had a huge increase since he's been successful working with that team of rebranding it under Aganorsa Leaf as opposed to Casa Fernandez. So
it's amazing. And the results, I hope, just continue to get better because I am always rooting for those guys.
Sure, absolutely.
You guys know how the game, it's an interesting industry because it's so tight knit, but it's also like you have levels and like very clear levels. Oh, here's Drew Estate, here's Fuente, here's Padron, here's, Ashen. All right, where does that follow then? Is Rocky up there? I love Rocky. Rocky's one of the best people that I've ever been pleasure to hang out with, and just he's provided me with so much that I love his stuff. I sell a lot of his cigars, but those tiers fall pretty quick. The consolidation of the industry over the last decade has been insane. And so it's to see someone like that take a brand that's not doing well, rebrand it smart, and then put it out and be successful with it is wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, there was, I think a lot of it, it's a bold move, obviously, to do that. All right, so what do we want to talk about here? The cigar, or let's talk a little bit about the bottle. So we're drinking. Nate was able to pick up. What do we have tonight?
This is the Bradshaw Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. This is using the name referring to Terry Bradshaw, the great Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback.
And awesome announcer.
Great announcer.
Actor.
Easy on that one.
I thought he was great in that Matthew McConaughey. What is that one?
Failure to Launch.
Failure to Launch. Yeah, he was
Never watched it.
You do have to put up with seeing Terry Bradshaw's ass at one point. Which
I did hear about that.
Not the best scene in the movie, but
I know he's also big into quarter horses as well, because his horse farm would actually come up to Columbus every year for the Quarter Horse Congress, which was just this past month, and you could always tell which truck was his.
Why? How's that?
Just the people that are in, if it doesn't look like anything Pittsburgh Steelers, but the people that do at least know who he is and know about his farm kind of pick that truck out in a parking lot. It looks like a semi. And that's just the truck part. There's actually a lot of orange on it, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
But yeah, so on the bottle, it has multiple times it refers to him being a 4-time Super Bowl champ.
Yep.
It actually has the years of the Super Bowls plus the Super Bowl numbers on them. This is coming in at 103.8 proof, and they picked that proof for a very specific reason.
Okay, what is that reason?
Because the proof, when you put it in percentage, is 51.9%.
Yes.
That was his career completion percentage.
No shit.
So that's why they went with that percentage for the whiskey. This is batch number 6. This product actually came out February of 2020, so it's only been around for about 2.5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the state of Ohio, this bottle's $37.22 on the shelf.
So it's fairly less than we talk about average. You know what I mean?
Especially when you have something like a celebrity name on it, like you talk about Heaven's Door with Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Whatever that one, I forget what it is that has that Peyton Manning's involved with. Like those things are like $200, $250 bottles.
Yeah.
But this one's actually reasonably priced. I think over the last couple of years, it may have come down in price.
Yeah. Jonathan Herring says, I think he's in Texas currently. I'm not sure, but he said he got batch number 5. I wonder what he paid for it.
All right. That'd be,
it's a good looking bottle just for, and again, we'll take some pictures of it. Did you take a picture of this before?
I didn't.
So it might be empty, or very low, but we'll take a picture of it so you guys can see on social media as well. We're a little slacking here tonight.
And there's 2 different companies involved with this. So on the bottle, it actually says, was it Silver Screen Bottling Company? So Silver Screen works with a lot of celebrities and personalities about bottling, marketing, distribution, and stuff like that when it comes to whiskey or spirit products. But they're just basically a marketing and distribution company. On one of the sides, it actually has the distillery in Kentucky number, which for this one is 10.
10. Yeah, we talked about this before, and you wouldn't tell me what that was.
Well, nowadays, like if a new whiskey distillery or any distillery opened up in Kentucky, like you're looking at a number like higher than 25,000. This one is 10.
10. So this is a
currently
OG.
Yes. The distillery's been around since I believe it was 1885. It's changed hands a few times. Currently, this is being made by Green River Distillery.
No kidding.
Which
we're going to try to get someone on from Green River here coming up in hopefully December or January.
Yeah. Because when I looked that up, I actually reached out to that person. I was like, holy shit, you guys make this? He goes, yeah, we do. They also do one for Alan Jackson.
Nice.
So I was like, yeah,
get behind that.
Yeah, that's one for Steve.
There you go.
So this is aged at least 2 years. So it is, still enough to be a bourbon. Still going to be a little on the younger side though. But yeah, it's different. I've seen this on the shelves over the last couple of years. never bought it. And then when I saw it today, I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. Let's try something new.
Gotta try new stuff.
What's that?
Gotta try new stuff.
Yeah.
You do. What's your take on? Because you showed me a portion of your whiskey select, your spirit collection, and it's tough. What are you drinking tonight?
I am a Willet chill, and I will be drinking Willet because I love Willet.
Which Willet?
I am drinking the 4-year rye.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
And it is actually I mark a lot of my Willet bottles when I got them, and this was from Minnesota when I went this last year. Found a bottle on the road, picked it up across the street. Actually, my buddy Todd and Mike's shop, Cigar Jones. There was a liquor store. They're like, "Hey, they may have Willet if you want, go get a bottle." So, and when I picked up a bottle of that, and I got a single barrel of Eagle Rare from one of my accounts in Mankato, Minnesota, when I went to visit them, and I took them to have like a little get together with all the guys I work with, and they were almost all polished, but I have a little bit left. So I like Willet a lot. Their distillery thing is, if you ever go down to Kentucky, go eat lunch at the bar at Willet.
Mm-hmm.
It is 100%. Incredible. I don't even like egg salad sandwiches, but apparently it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. And so, I love Willet. I love supporting them, and I figured it fit with the shirt. So, but I like all whiskey.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you though, Willet, I will second that. I mean, it's gorgeous and it's a great little distillery.
Yeah.
It's, smaller than some, but it's beautiful.
It's special.
It is special. And I like their products. Not been disappointed. Everything from the pot still to the ryes. And then I've been fortunate enough to sample quite a few of the family estates as well.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. Even the ones that were made by other people when they, older, because we have a good friend, Bob Breyer, who's been on the show. And one time he just brought a whole like smorgasbord of just these really, like, it was like 15-year, I forget what it was. I don't know what the oldest was, but it was pretty fantastic.
I think he brought a 15-year Willet, and then one of the other bottles was the very first batch of it was a wild turkey. What's the one that we always used to do for Thanksgiving?
Rare breed.
Rare breed. Yeah, it was the first batch of rare breed from like the mid 90s.
Yeah. So
that's wild.
I want to ask you, what are your thoughts of these celebrity endorsed products? In the cigar world, which you're a little bit more familiar with, obviously there have been several come and go and don't do very well. There's been some that have stuck around as like small, like you mentioned, Rocky, he's got a couple of those, Gary Sheffield, like some athletes. Ray Lewis had one. So you have some of these celebrity cigars. Karl Malone has his own brand through La Aurora. You have who else? Well, I mean, the more recent one, which we're good friends with, Eric Espinosa, teaming up with Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
What's that?
Knuckle sandwich.
Knuckle sandwich. When you see something like this, you mentioned, Nate mentioned Heaven's Door. You've got Redneck Riviera was John Rich. You have, obviously Sammy Hagar did it in the Cabo Wabo a while back, and now you got The Rock doing it, and tequila is a big one. What are your thoughts when you see something on the shelf you haven't had yet? You say you got to try new stuff. Do you steer clear of something that says, oh, that's Terry Bradshaw? What does this guy know about it? I like Terry Bradshaw. I'm going to buy it. I don't really like him. I could care less. I have no real opinion of Terry Bradshaw. What do you, when you see those on the shelf, what's your thought? Because I think everyone's different about these.
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe they're not getting enough money in whatever they're doing normally. Like, we need to pay athletes more, because if they have time to run,
bad for the celebrity.
I feel bad because it's like, you have to do this. Like, you have to be here today. No,
it's diversification.
I'm indifferent. There's probably plenty of celebrities who are really passionate about different things and products, and probably do drink a lot of tequila. And I'm all fine with that. I just don't. It's not like a selling point for me. I really don't care.
You're clear of it, or do you say I'm going to give it a shot, or you're indifferent?
So I'm lucky because I have a friend who's got 2 liquor stores in Wisconsin that have tasting rooms upstairs,
Nice.
and they're wonderful. And he's a great guy and a good friend. Amin is his name, and so I get to try a lot of whiskey at his tasting room. I've been selling him cigars for many years, and so he'll have some antique collection every once in a while that you can buy a pour of or something. So I'll get to try. Can I try this? I've never had Knob Creek's X or Y, and I'll, get a pour of it to try. But I wouldn't go and buy a bottle of it. No, it doesn't entice me that much.
Okay.
To be like, I need to. My fiance is much more like, I need to try the Rock's tequila. And I love the Rock, but I'm not going to get the tequila. I'm going to get the tequila I want, which is none of that.
So you wouldn't try it. You like trying new stuff, but you're saying like it's not something that you're like, all right, I haven't had Terramana yet. So
yeah, I'm not going to spend the $70-$80 on your bottle just because someone's name's on it that I don't know.
And that's where I agree with you on that. That's where a lot of these celebrities, I think it goes one of two ways. It's either like this, Bradshaw, the Terramana stuff. It's very reasonably priced.
Yes.
Yeah, I brought up that Redneck Riviera. I mean, I don't
$28.
$28. This is 37. You're 30 to 50, depending on which Terramana. Cabo Wabo is kind of there. George Clooney made all the news when he did the Casamigos and just made a shit ton of money on that, right? Ray Cheshire says he not sure that they have. He says, I'm sure they have little to nothing to do with it. They're just getting royalties for the use of their name. I think it's different for everyone. I think the more reasonable ones, like this one at $37.99 or whatever it was, I would give it a shot. You know what I mean? Hey, I haven't had it. They don't really have anything else I'm looking for in the store today. All right, I'll give it a shot. If this was at like $80, I'm going to be on
at a bar.
I'm going to be online reading what people think about it. You know what I mean? I'm going to start doing a little bit more research before I pony up pushing $100 on something that I don't know because it is celebrity endorsed. I'm like, all right, so Bradshaw's getting his cut. Then you got it's sourced from somewhere, so they're getting a cut, and it's like basically you got 4 hands on this project, and that's why it's $80 because everyone wants to make part of it, right? The fact he's only selling it for under $40 in the state of Ohio. That's either a volume thing that they're making money or this is a pet project that he wants to be able to tell people he's got his own whiskey. You should try it.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it might be coming in at that price point. So, he spent his career playing in Pittsburgh, which is a very blue collar city.
True.
And, $37 is very approachable for your average blue collar worker. It's not that, $50 or $100 bottle, that some celebrities put their name on. So he may have just done that because, he wants it to be something that's available and approachable to anybody out there. And I think part of the price point too has to do with that it's, only 2 years old or at least 2 years old.
At least, yeah.
Because obviously the longer that the juice sits in the barrel, the more expensive it's going to be. That's going to drive the price. And that may not be something that, he wants to do, or he may not have any part of that decision-making whatsoever. He may literally just be, selling his name and collecting the royalties from that. And it's the distribution company that's making that decision.
Yeah.
Green River's making the juice, and then, that Silver Screen or whatever is the one who's doing all the bottling. I mean, so they're the ones most likely determining when to actually bottle the product. So he may not have that much involvement in it. Just, it's named after him, using his name, trying to push it that way.
Well, I will say I think it's different for everyone, and I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but I think I know I've talked about it on the show before where had the opportunity to go to a very small session with Eddie Russell from Wild Turkey, and he described the whole Long Branch project with Matthew McConaughey, and they were, again, he's not their oh, I want this mash bill, I want that. But it's like it at least he was at first getting samples sent and all that stuff. And then, Eddie said that at least once, probably more than that, but Matthew McConaughey brought his whole family to the distillery. They basically spent amount of time there, and he at least had his they want to do something different and incorporate the whole Texas thing. And so then they did the mesquite thing. And so it's like I think there's varying levels. I'm sure there's just someone that, their team of business professionals are like, hey, we got this project, you're going to make estimated about this, you have a name on it. It's a bourbon. Like, would you want to do it? Yeah, let's do it. And maybe they have a little bit of hands-on, they're sent samples of different stuff, or they're a little bit more involved. I think it's different for everyone. It's
gotta be different for everybody. And, I was just at a concert last week, and gal was like freaking out that there was Snoop Dogg's wine in the booth. And it was like, okay, cool. That's awesome. I'll try a little bit, but I wasn't going to open it or crack it,
Some people do absolutely. They geek out about it.
And it's not a bad thing. Everybody has people they like and they want to support. And, if the name's on the product, if the name's not on the product's going to be the product. So is it good, or do you enjoy it? If you do, then keep consuming it,
Yeah, absolutely.
Consume it with your friends.
All right, Nate, what do you think of this? There's some people out here listening, and Jonathan Herron we mentioned earlier, and he went out and got a bottle today because he was asking us what we were doing. So,
and he also paid $37 for it.
Right.
So,
and he's got that different batch, number 5, but he was saying that at first he was not all that wild about the aroma when he cracked it, poured it. Wasn't that wild about it already. Now, granted, I don't know how many glasses he's had, but he is saying that it's definitely getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
And
get a little air in it.
Now. Yeah.
Maybe it's also because of the cigar.
Could be because of the cigar. And then Sean Anderson, though, who's a regular listener, he had said that he thought it was pretty decent. And I'd say, with all the love and respect, Sean can be pretty opinionated when it comes to some of this stuff.
No.
And so I think that he's been on the show. He's a friend of the show. He's down in Tennessee. And, so for him to say that as well. Nate, what do you think about this?
Well, I definitely agree with Jonathan. Right out of the gate, on the nose, I didn't necessarily get the chemical finish that Jonathan was talking about. I definitely got
you said ethanol.
Yeah, he said ethanol and chemical. It's like, okay.
Says it right there on the bottle.
Alcohol. But no, I'd gotten a little bit of vanilla on the nose, some real bright oak on it as well. On the palate, kind of a tart apple, but as I've been drinking it, it's actually been getting a little bit sweeter. And for a while there, I was just focusing on smoking the cigar and kind of let the whiskey rest a little bit, and then going back to the whiskey. It definitely tasted a little bit more well-rounded.
Yeah,
it wasn't real sharp. Some of the things I was getting on that very first sip, I'm no longer getting. At first I was like, yeah, the finish kind of reminds me of a younger corn heavy whiskey. But it has kind of rounded out as it's been aerating in the glass a little bit. What's interesting, do you get much spice on it now?
I'm still getting on the finish a lot of it's going to sound bad. It's not that cinnamon that we talk about a lot on some of those. I think the Willet Rye that Mikey's drinking has a little bit more of that kind of cinnamon, a little bit note in there as well.
Like a cinnamon, nutmeg.
Yeah,
that one.
This, bro, it's more of like a not like menthol cigarettes, because I don't smoke those, but kind of it reminds me of the
little
mint, but it's like the eucalyptic
okay.
Menthol. I guess I don't know why I'm thinking of this, thinking of the nasal snuff that says English menthol or something like that. You know what I mean? It's kind of
like a Vicks.
Like a Vicks, yeah. I got a little bit of the Vapo rub, on my palate.
And you both drink whiskey, so you've definitely smoked a menthol cigarette at some point.
No,
probably
never.
Outside. What?
Nope.
Never?
No,
I've never smoked a
been
cigarette.
around it,
Oh
but no.
my God. Oh man.
I would say, Jonathan, everyone's like you're saying, it's getting a little sweeter, but I'd say the finish for me is it's still a little bitey.
Okay.
It's still a little bitey. I don't know if that's what I ate before the show. I did have a small glass when we had Tyler Jones on. We did the Heaven Hill 7-year. I had
Bottled and Bond?
Yeah, the bottle and bond. I had a small pour of that. So going from that, and then I, took a sip of this, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's
Different.
That's very different. Very different from a 7-year bottle and bond to this, at least 2-year product coming out of you said Green River.
Yeah.
So for me, I hate to say it. I mean, this is not bad, but that finish is really just sticking with me. It's overwhelming. It's almost like it's not giving me heartburn, but it's just a little bit aggressive and a little bit, I'm gonna say harsh. I'm trying to. It's not bad. It's just like, it's not just different. It's I already said it's kind of like that, like that Vicks. It's like a little bit of that eucalyptic type thing for me.
Okay.
Not cinnamon or mint that that we're used to.
It has it, like you said, it has a different type of spice to it. Not quite the spice that I would expect from something with a 21% rye content. But I think
21%, huh?
21% rye, 9% malted barley, 70% corn. So it definitely has a lot,
Corn, yeah.
lot, very corn heavy, but it's also kind of a high rye.
Listerine.
Listerine.
That's where I'm going with it. Not the good flavor.
Like OG green.
Yeah.
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 Definitely don't want to go with the yellow stuff.
No, we talked about that before.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm thinking of. Is it's not like the cool mint or it's that old school Listerine that like your grandparents had, like a mouthwash, and you're just like, this is rubbing alcohol. Like why do you do this? And like, well, it makes your mouth clean. I'm like, it just kills anything in there, which was the idea. But they didn't have good flavoring back then. That's kind of what I'm getting, which sounds like I hate this stuff, but it's just the finish that has that.
Okay.
All right. Good notes there.
But no, I mean, you're not wrong. I get what you're saying. I mean, yeah,
you get it now that I'm saying that. You kind of see that finish.
I do see.
Bit?
I do
okay.
see what you're saying, because yeah, the spice that is there, it's not a baking spice. It's not cinnamon or it's not a pepper type of spice like what we get on some cigars and stuff. Yeah, I get what you're saying with like the menthol or Vicks, Listerine. Yeah, I get what you're saying with that finish, because that finish is kind of bright and like it's kind of a long finish, because you can still feel that on your tongue or on your palate for a while after you finish that sip.
Yeah.
Kind of like if you were rinsing your mouth out with Listerine, like you'll still taste that and get that kind of tingling sensation on your tongue.
Yeah.
For a couple minutes afterwards.
Yeah. Jonathan Herring's drinking it as well. He says a lot of spice on the back end.
Hot.
And it seems to be the consensus that if you let it like go back to this, you crack this and say you have, like if we stop drinking this right now, shelved it for at least a day, maybe a month or whatever, everyone seems to say going back to it is definitely it changes a bit.
Jonathan said he also gets some pear up front.
And Ray says you're really selling this. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be honest here. Maybe I'd talk a little.
Terry Bradshaw's not paying us, so
if Terry Bradshaw was, maybe I would. Maybe I would talk a little bit nicer. But I mean, again, I'm trying to be honest with you guys about this. And again, I mean, I still think it's worth trying at this point. But again, for 30 some bucks, under 40, you're not really.
Yeah, with tax, $40 and a penny.
Yeah, yeah, you're able to be able to share this a little bit. I do like the packaging. I like the idea. I like the fact that he did bring in his football career and everything else, and there's a nice throwback to that.
And sometimes they need a purpose, right? It's kind of like wine or cigars, where it's like, maybe if you were to just have eaten something with it and like now had a pour after a full meal, or after like having, just change your situation around having the pour, it could be a completely, it could be a better experience. Who knows? Maybe you had salmon, and with salmon, it's banging with salmon, versus, just with the cigar, maybe it just doesn't have that profile that you're looking for.
Well, that's the interesting part, because, very rare occurrence that Nate and I are smoking different cigars, right? So again, a all Nicaraguan blend is going to be quite different than having that San Andreas wrapper on there. So
For sure.
you know, we're definitely getting different, I think, pairings as we get to that point.
Possibly.
There we go. Someone turn the lights out on you.
It happens a lot. There's a lot going on.
All right, so this is the part of part one, and you know, again, feel free. We'll talk a little bit about it if you're going to stick around for part two as well.
Oh, definitely.
But so we do the ratings. I don't know if you saw that when you were watching the Terrence one, but this is a point where you rate the whiskey, you rate the cigar, and you rate the pairing. So it's a little off for you guys, you know, that are used to everyone smoking the same thing. But we'll start with you, if that's all right, Mikey. That, you know, the whiskey for you is Willet 4-year rye. So again, we all love the Willet product. So 10 is the best. So you give an out of 10 rating for the whiskey, out of 10 rating for the cigar. You're smoking the HVC Edition Especial 2015, correct?
Yes, I am.
Which is the same as what Nate's smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of 10 rating for the pairing that you have. So if you could go ahead and do that with any reasoning that you would like.
Yeah. So for the Willet, I brought a couple of my 4-year bottles up to try just in between, because I really enjoy doing that. But the bottle I had was 10 out of 10 has to be the best, right? Like the best you've ever had. But for a product that isn't antique or isn't a, you know, 1 out of a million barrel, it's a 10 out of 10 for that. You know, for being a Willet 4-year, I really have been enjoying this bottle. It's got a great amount of heat to it, but it also, I normally prefer cast strength, and so I like it a little bit spicier.
What's the proof on that bottle you got in front of you?
108.
108, because they're all a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one I have right here, and the one I had was 108.8, and the one that I'm about to have is 108.2. But I always like the product from Willet. I think it's a 10 out of 10 product. Everything from the purple tops to just normal 4-year or pot still. I like all of their product. So I guess in the scheme of all whiskey, I would give the whiskey an 8.5. And cigar-wise, I love the 2015 Edition Especial. Like, I love it. Personally, it's one of my favorite cigars. So for the world, I would put it at a 9 to 9.5 for me. Normally enjoy it with the coffee in the morning, especially the 15. But with the whiskey, I'm really liking the San Andreas wrapper. I'm really enjoying the cocoa with it. A little bit of earthiness and the spice. It's balancing well for me.
Nice. Nate, how about you? You're smoking the same cigar, the 2015 HVC.
I am, and I do agree with Mike about like some of those espresso or kind of a high percentage dark chocolate type note. You know, so it's got that rich chocolate with that little bit of bitterness to it, but in a good way. I do enjoy the cigar. It's not as heavy a smoke as what it looks like, I don't think.
It's more bold than.
Say again.
It's got like a good balance of boldness, but it's not like overpowering or punchy. Just very,
yeah. The one thing I will say about it, and I get this quite often with a San Andreas, is it tends to be a little dry on the palate. And I get a little bit of that with this, a little dryness, a little woodiness to it. But I definitely think it's a solid smoke. I'm going to give this cigar an 8. It's the first one of these I've ever had, so I'm not necessarily.
You've smoked other HVCs though, correct?
If I have, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so maybe not. Okay,
I couldn't tell you the last time I did smoke one.
Okay.
On the whiskey, I'm going to give the whiskey a 7. I'm glad Jonathan was able to pick up a bottle as well, and talk about it. But he was spot on that the bottle, I think, has improved as the night's gone on, as it's aired out a little bit.
Also, you're on your second or third.
Yeah, it could be because I'm on the second pour.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Palate's acclimated to it. But I'd had a few sips of it even before I lit up the cigar, just to see like if that second or third sip, how different it would be. Because we all know from doing tastings and tours, that first sip's going to kind of shock your palate. And you got to kind of wait till that second or third one before you really start getting the flavor of the whiskey. I think it's a solid bottle. I think at $37, it's approachable enough that anyone could go out and try it. It's worth picking up, unless you're like a Cleveland Browns fan or something like that, and then you may not want to buy it.
Sure.
But I'm a Cowboys fan, and one of those Super Bowls he beat Cowboys, so fuck that. But as far as the pairing, I'll give the pairing. I'll give it a 7.5. I'll give the pairing a 7.5. So
8, 7, 7.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just over time with the whiskey or if it's because of smoking the cigar. But yeah, I mean, over time, the whiskey's actually brought, it's gotten some more of those sweeter notes to it that I didn't get those first few sips. So I don't know if that's just, time, air, or the cigar. But they don't really overpower. As rich and heavy as the cigar is, it doesn't overpower the whiskey.
Yeah. All right, so I'm smoking the 2018, which again is, as we mentioned earlier, is quite a different. Not necessarily. I mean, it's a different blend. The biggest thing is the wrapper, so they blended it a little differently to go with their Corojo 99 wrapper, right? And this is a typical Aganorsa leaf. This project right here doesn't really surprise me. If it's coming out of Aganorsa leaf, they're Maduros or San Andreas with Nicaraguan filler and binder. They're Corojo. Typically, they're not natural, but like they're natural or whatever you want to call it. Like Sindicato does the same thing, Illusion, a lot of like they use the Corojo wrapper on their hardcore, like the original documents, and then the Maduros of San Andreas. So this is a common thing coming out of Aganorsa leaf, and it's always interesting how different some of their blends can taste based on what I think with especially them is the Vitola. The size of the cigar and the shape of the cigar changes it big time.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I was down there, part of the project was at the time the BS Gold was being made by Casa Fernandez, now Aganorsa leaf, and we had a 6x54 was the original thing. We just went with that. And then the part of the trip of the reason we went down there was we wanted to do the line extension. And basically we had a list of, it was 5 different sizes that we wanted to smoke the blend in. And one of my sizes that I really wanted to do, we ended up with a 5x52, but it was a Corona. It was a true, it was like a 5x46.
Which is what both of us are smoking.
And I saw that lit line on the table. I'm like, that's my drive home at the end of the night. I got a half hour left, before, I want to go outside for a quick one. And I smoked it, and it was too in your face. It tasted a lot, not stronger in strength, but just the blend was just amplified to an 11. And it was like, I took a couple puffs of it. I'm like, I wanted to like this size so much. I really did. But we took it out to like a 52 ring gauge for the smaller size, the Robusto, because originally it was like a 4.5 by 52. You know what I mean? Just because it just needed a little bit of that bigger ring gauge to soften that delivery of the flavor.
I thought you'd have been all in on having that be a bolder flavor.
Dude, it was a lot. And granted, I mean, it was also like 90 degrees in the warehouse. And so we were just, I was sitting there sweating, the alcohol from the night before. But the reason I say that is I think I would like this blend a little bit more on a little bit bigger ring gauge. So I like the cigar. I would give this an 8. But again, I don't know if that's being affected by the pairing as well. I haven't smoked this size of the blend and everything just by itself without having this whiskey. So I kind of say 8 on the cigar. I think the whiskey, I'm right there in that 7 range on the whiskey. It's just that finish for me, it's getting a little softer as I get into it a little bit more, as we're talking, as we're doing all this stuff. I'm on another glass type thing, you know what I mean? Bottles opening up, whatever you guys want to say. I think it's because we've had more of it and it's not the initial drink. But a 7 on that, because I'm not a huge fan of the bottle, but I think
It's always the more.
What's that? What'd you say, Mike?
7. Or I forgot. You. That was my bad. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Yeah, 7 on the bottle. The pairing. The pairing is basically, I'm at a 7.5 right between those two, just because I don't know if it's affecting it or not. The whiskey is, I think, overpowering my cigar, being a little bit more medium bodied. It's not, you know, it's maybe bold as your guys's. So it's fine. I get it. If I set the whiskey down for a little while and I start smoking the cigar for a little bit before going back to the whiskey, I get a little bit more of the flavor and everything like that. But if I'm going 1-to-1 here, that finish that I keep talking about in the whiskey is just it's carrying over. It's overpowering that Corojo Nicaraguan blend. So not the greatest pairing for me, but not my favorite bottle. I'll say that. And normally I'm not the one that's on the lower end, so I'm not going to say this is a trash bottle or anything like that, but it's just not my favorite.
Yeah, we were both a 7 on the bottle.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know,
if this still tasted like that first sip, I'd have knocked it down a peg.
Yeah.
But you know, you can't necessarily judge a bottle by that first sip because your palate's not acclimated to it. But that's why I also had multiple sips of it before I lit up the cigar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, again, it might be me, but like even that sip there, we're an hour into this and I'm sipping on it. And it's just like, I'm like, oh, it got better. And then as I let it finish and everything else, now it's just like, oh no, that's that unpleasant, not for my palate, not for my, you know, taste. It's just, it still hits me kind of right here. It's not a Kentucky hug. It's more of like a little bit of that heartburn type of, you know, acid reflux type thing. So anyway, as we round out part 1 here, I do want to thank you, Mikey Zahn. Great having you on, guys. Check out Mikey Lights It and Company. Again, it was mikeylightsit.co, right? So mikeylightsit.co for the website there. And we're going to have him on a part 2 as well. But I do want to thank, again, you being on for sending these cigars. We'll have to take a pick on what we're going to smoke for part 2 out of the bag. You know, it's good, like having a little goodie bag. I love it.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to smoke, and I encourage you to do the same, Nate. Smoke something you haven't had.
Okay.
For part 2.
That's going to be either.
And you can pick out of here. I think you've had all 3 of these. I was going to pick this
Revival
that I don't know much about.
I think I'm going to go with the Boondocks just because that Revival looks a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
So I don't want to necessarily try and step down because I may not be able to taste it as much.
I get it. All right. So I do want to thank, as we round out here, Tinderbox Edison in Columbus, Ohio. Thank you for typically the featured cigar. Check them out if you're in the area or if you don't have a local brick and mortar. Obviously, if you don't have a local brick and mortar, same thing. Either, you know, check out Mikey Zahn's project here that we've been talking about. He can hook you up with some great samplers. That's a great way to go. And then if you're in the Columbus area, then check out Tinderbox at Easton. If you have something specific, always see if Tinderbox at Easton has it available. They can obviously ship you as well. So that's a good way to do it. We have people all over. It's like we call it shop. Not instead of shop local, it's shop local-ish. And they'll buy from a brick and mortar instead of an online retail. Not to say that's a bad thing, but they'll shop local-ish, somewhere that they love, that they try to support no matter where they go. Altadis USA, normally we have a second cigar from them. Thank you, Josh Bentley, and everyone there. See some of the great brands behind us. Monte Cristo.
Plug.
What's that? I think he's bad connection. So yeah, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, Romeo Julieta, and
a place to get plugged into.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And then also BS Cigar Company, Gold and Silver are available, and you guys can check out if you want to support the show with a little bit of a contribution, patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast or Venmo at Bourbon and BS. And then also if you want to do some swag, that's always fun too, buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. So Mikey, thank you very much for joining us. Part 1. Guys, if you're listening live, stay tuned. There'll be a little brief intermission. If you're listening on the audio, podcast, they always just click over to part 2 for the life topic. Tonight, we're going to be saying, well, the topic is, can we skip to the good part? And we'll talk about that in part 2. So, guys, happy Whiskey Wednesday. Cheers. Have a great week.
So it's funny. Sean Anderson was talking about this in the comments.
We're in the intermission right now.
Sean Anderson was talking about this in the comments, and he was saying that on the front he gets I think he was trying to be funny, but he said Banana Foster because that was a recent taste descriptor that you had read in a episode. And
is that related to Jodie Foster?
No, but then like 10 minutes later, I take a sip. And I'm like, son of a bitch! Now I taste banana.
Yeah. All right, now Sean Anderson's out there. New over under.
Also, am I on like a super leg with you guys?
It seems like it.
I gotta be on like a super lag with you because
if you're talking now,
yeah,
we can hear
it's
that
bothering me because I'm not coming through.
You got bot, yeah, like it's a little choppy every once in a while. Right now, you're fairly smooth, but it's not like a perfect signal. Someone asked if you're in your treehouse.
That's Wisconsin.
Yeah, I got you.
I think it's funny. So I'm getting ready to smoke that Boondock.
Yeah,
and Mike had said that cigar hadn't been made in 3 years, and when I took it out of the cellophane. Like I can like hold it next to the HVC, but yeah, that cellophane's got a little yellow tinge to it. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Both cigars that we smoked were Corona 5x46, and this Boondock that I'm getting ready to light up, it's a 6 1/4 by 46. Same ring gauge, 46 ring.
I like small. I like smaller. I'm gonna pull up my laptop and see. I don't know if there's an easy way to do that. But I run Mac on both and everything's plugged into my same USB thing. I don't know if my Mac will have better. Am I getting a better quality with you at this moment in time?
Right now, you sound great.
Okay.
Like your video stream looks fine as well.
Okay.
Yeah, normally, we post pictures, before we go live of what we're smoking and drinking, but we got a little distracted, and so we was like, oh shit, we forgot to do that, and we're almost halfway through the bottle.
Hey, it happened. And yeah. I mean, plus everybody went out and voted yesterday. Like there was so much, not like I'm not a political person, so I'm glad we're not on air, but like, yeah, the world's so fucked currently that, it's hard to keep normal daily stuff organized or, not get caught up in that world,
Yeah, I mean, when Steve and I were inside before setting up and everything, like we were just talking about what was going on. So I think that's why we didn't necessarily do some of the picks and posts beforehand that we normally do, because we were just talking about what's going on and listening to the news.
Yeah, no, I was up till 1 a.m. ish. Not just creating an RPG for fun, but also watching the news and seeing what's happening. And in Wisconsin, we're a weird state. We're one of the battleground states. And so I always got to, be involved or, it's always interesting to see how it shakes up when, most of the state is one color and then there's 2 pockets that make up the half of the state's votes.
Well, it's the same thing with Illinois. I mean, you have Cook County, which is a lot of the state, and then down by Champaign and Peoria, that's another pocket as well. Although probably the coolest or most interesting map I looked at in about Wisconsin was it looked at counties across the U.S. and the amount that they drink, and the map went from either light blue to dark blue, and all of Wisconsin was dark blue.
Yeah,
like super dark blue. There's
for sure.
Yeah, there's this one little spot that the person was looking at and goes, yeah, see this one part where it's white? You think, looking at the map, that might be like a dry county or something? No, that's a lake.
Yeah, Wisconsin, we like to drink a lot. It is a very big thing. And then I remember my first time out of state going someplace to, it was a sorority formal I went to in Illinois in Champaign-Urbana with one of my friends back in the day. She's like, oh, come do this. And I'm like, oh, I'll go to a sorority house for a weekend. No problem.
Sure.
So I showed up and it was like, I don't know, we're drinking, having a good time the first night and the second night. But the first night, and I was just like, wait, you guys are hammered. What happened to all of you? Like, that's it? That's all this takes? Like, they're like, you're from Wisconsin. I was like, yeah, we're alcoholics.
Yeah.
We're the unanonymous alcoholics. You have to. It gets too cold.
Stay warm somehow, right?
Well, and I remember back when I was a rep, we had the polar vortex come through in the first couple weeks of 2014. And I had there was one of my accounts. I remember the lady was telling me that like she had gone to the gym, and then when she went back home, because the wind chill was like -40, when she went back home to shower and get ready to go open the store, she'd left her car running the entire time because she was afraid she wouldn't be able to get it to start again.
You can only do that in certain areas. All right, you guys ready to go to part 2 here?
Yeah, as long as I'm not lagging super bad. But
no, you're good right now. I mean, it's like I said, I think it just goes a little bit here and there, spotty. Like you were good most of the show, and then there was that period towards the end where it was, you'd say something, and I'd be like, "What was that?" You know what I mean? And then there was a delay.
And that's the worst because you're talking, I'll talk, and then it's like, well, in a normal conversation, like my small interject of this would make so much sense versus what was that?
Yeah. It happens. I mean, we've had it on our end some weeks and everything like that with the internet, the way it works. But like, again, I see it also in your video quality where it'll kind of go in and out a little bit, but we've had that on our end as well. So it's just the way, depending on the signal where you're at. And then sometimes, I've noticed here, I had to up my internet package because, the time we do this normally, it's I still think that they throttle. They throttle it, when it's a big peak time. So we should be good though. Anyways, we do a quick silence and then I can find the audio here. And thank you guys for tuning in for the intermission. They had a new bet over and under. I don't know what they bet out there, but he said 7 minutes. I think we're over it. So congratulations.
For the intermission?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a bathroom break.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 245, part 2, Beyond the BS. We're still joined by Mikey Zahn, and he gave a little bit of background, also the projects he's working on right now. He's been in the cigar industry for over a decade, and right now I'm still enjoying the first cigar out of the package, one of 2 packages. Nate just lit up his second, Mikey Lights It Co. So Mikey Lights It. So I'll say it again. MikeyLightsIt.co is the website. If you guys want to check out what he has to offer out there, this is a newer project from him. Click over to part 1 if you're listening to the audio, and listen to a little bit about what we smoked, what we drank. We're still sipping on the Bradshaw Bourbon here, and we're going to get into what makes us a little bit different than a lot of bourbon and cigar podcasts. Part 2 is kind of the end of the night, or as you're getting into it, sitting around having a smoke and a drink with your friends or people you just met. You start talking about life, and that's kind of the basis of the part 2 of the show. And tonight's life topic is, can we skip to the good part? And this is something that I don't know how many of you listeners out there are on TikTok at all, but there's that trend where it's, whether it be traveling or it's like a workout thing, and there's this audio background that they have where it's like, can we skip to the good part? And then it's like, I'm not going to sing it, but it's like, then it's like this, there's like this quick silent part, and then it goes to this, like all the good shit. You know what I mean? Like, can we skip to the good part? It's like someone that was overweight or skinny or wherever they're at, before their journey. And then all of a sudden they're squatting or they're looking better or whatever it is. The travel thing is
waiting in line at the airport.
Waiting in line at the airport or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're in paradise. And then there's the other ones where it's like they were really down and out, and they're sick, or they were just in a bad place in their life. They were drinking too much, they were doing whatever, and it's like, can we skip to the good part? And then it's just like this big glorious like period, right? But I see all that stuff, and it's those types of little like flashes in the pan when you're scrolling through TikTok. For those who don't know how TikTok works all that well, it's like, you just basically scroll up and it's one video after another. You don't know how it works, right? You don't have TikTok.
No, I don't have TikTok.
Sean Anderson, of course, he doesn't know. But it's an interesting platform, but it's something where it's just like you're constantly just scrolling, and these videos have this kind of, it's not the instant gratification, but it's something where they don't focus on what got them to the good part, right? So it's one of those types of things. It's like, can we skip to the good part? It's like, yeah, we'd all love to do that, but it's like, at what cost, right? And it's okay, you were in bad shape, you were drinking too much, or you lost your job, or you lost your family, whatever it is, you got injured, and whatever it might be. And it's like, what was that rebuilding process? What are you glancing over so quickly to get to what you want to get to? It's we've had conversations recently on the show where it's like, everyone's just like, when I get older, when I get there, I want to be here and all this stuff. And it's like, well, you gotta, that's good to have those goals, right? We had the one show where it was memories or goals. Are you creating memories, or are you just shooting for goals? Or are you doing both? Where you're at? This is kind of similar, but I will bring this up, and I want to see what you guys have to say about this. This time of the year, we had Halloween, right? We had Halloween here in the U.S., and there's a lot of controversy over how soon do you decorate for the Christmas season, or whatever the season is, for you, towards the end of the year. And I feel like I am a big proponent of don't rush it. Don't rush it. You don't have to put up the tree on November 1st.
I was going to joke with you because your tree is still out here in the garage.
It is.
So,
it's
where it belongs.
It's going to smell like smoke, but we'll figure it out. But it's like, Mikey, are you one of those people? And we can get to obviously some more of the in-depth, life stuff here. But I want to start at least light and see what people think out there. Is, are you a big holiday guy? I mean, do you think that Thanksgiving in the U.S. gets its fair shake?
Midwest is a weird area, especially Wisconsin, where there's a lot of hunting. And so I'm a big bow hunter in the early to mid season. And then normally like opening weekend for a gun in Wisconsin is normally the weekend before Thanksgiving. And so it like puts a bookmark in my holiday season where it's like, oh, this is before it even begins. Like after Halloween, there is two weeks or so there in which like I'm not even going to think about Thanksgiving. And then Thanksgiving comes, and then I get to ease into the holiday season for Christmas.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of people start the Christmas music too early for me. I'm more of a Christmas music the week of Christmas, maybe the week before type guy.
Speaking my language.
Yep.
In a perfect world, it would be day of or a few days previous, more like a pep talk to the people.
You have a playlist ready to go Christmas Eve, maybe Christmas morning.
Yes. If I don't hear All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey 30 to 40 times within the month of December from my lovely fiance, I'd probably be happier. But yeah, it's a little too early. I have lots of friends who love Christmas music. Right, October ends, Christmas now, everything goes up, everything's ready. I'm not that person at all. I like the Christmas tree set up in December just so that I can I have time to enjoy it and enjoy the magical season, right? And have people come over and see the tree, whatnot. But I don't. No, I'm not. I like to hunt the weekend before Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving comes, and after
I feel
that,
like you're one to appreciate the moment, like what's ahead of you, yeah, you're gonna appreciate it if you get there, but you got to at least appreciate what's happening now, whether it be hunting season, Thanksgiving. I mean, everyone has, I feel like, a holiday they don't really like for whatever reason, especially as you get older. You know what I mean? It's like there's like a bad memory, or you don't want to see that family member or that friend. You know what I mean? Or there's always going to be those things. But I feel like you're the type of person that, you know, you want to give the moment and the next moment kind of its due, and then yeah, we'll get there hopefully so that we can celebrate that as well. But I mean, if all you're doing is, you know, again, if you have a vacation booked for like 5 months out and all you're doing is doing that countdown and you're literally so occupied with that, you just can't wait to get to that point, or the next job, you know what I mean? Like, all right, I'll do this, but it better be quick, you know what I mean? It's like, it could be 5 years. If you're just living 5 years to get to your next promotion, that may never happen. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to at least stay focused and driven on what's happening in front of you. And I think right now, again, is, you know, we're in November. We had a great fall in the Midwest, right? You know, this is like where we are, at least. This was like the longest true fall, where it was like 50s to 70 for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people are like, I can't wait for the snow. And you're like, you're going to be people that are going to complain that it's too cold too. So I don't want to hear from that.
No,
Those
and
people also complain when it's too hot during the summertime.
It's too hot. I can't wait for the summer. It's like,
yeah,
well,
just wait 6 months when you have to drive through snow. Like,
you got to be thankful for the seasons that are manageable without 80 layers of clothes. You know, you have to be thankful
Correct.
for not shoveling the snow. You have to be thankful for being able to walk outside and be like, oh, I put on a t-shirt and shorts today, and like, I'm going to be completely fine for the next 24 hours to the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Like, you have to, in the Midwest, you have to be thankful for those little inches you gain or lose every year of warm weather. And, you know, for the present part of it, it's like, well, shit, most of us aren't present anymore because our attention's always being pulled at from 80 different directions, whether it be family, whether it be friends, whether it be social media, games, movies, whatever your interests are. If it's scrolling the feed on TikTok, you lose so much of that present. And it is time, and they don't tell you how much time you're losing on this kind of stuff. You know, he's a bow hunter.
yeah. So yeah, you're reading the comment.
Thank you, Tim. She's the best, by the
Tim's
way.
originally from Illinois.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, that's so funny that this happens.
Tim Dodge says, for those on the audio, he says, the guy drinks Willet. He parties at the U of I. He's a bow hunter, and he knows when Christmas shit should be displayed. You should remind your fiance she is getting a gem. Feel free to share at least this snapshot, if not the whole podcast, with your fiance if she's not listening right now.
Oh, I tell her every day. You know,
perfect.
You know,
sure that goes over super well.
He's living in the moment every day, rubbing that one in.
Yeah. No, she's the gem. I always laugh because, like, Steve, you can ask Rob. Like, he loves Ying. Ying is like one of his favorite people for a reason. She allows me to do and like maintain. We've been together for about 8 years. So this is even before being a cigar rep. This is just working in a cigar shop all of my off hours, and then also traveling for normal work and doing X, Y, and Z, and still being like, no, you can pursue your passion. And so she's the reason I get to drink Willet. And yeah, either go away or apart. We were doing this for many years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, exactly. I can do that. I can have friends over, and I think a lot of the cure for finding yourself not being able to be present with the people and whoever you're with at the time. I think the cure for that is like good relationships that you pursue and that pursue you to help, take that Tuesday night when you'd normally just be home, or you'd be maybe playing something or watching a show with, your significant other, and making that a social thing where you can spend time with them or you can talk to them and they can pull you into the present, because that's really how we don't get our daily updates on the world from the internet, or we shouldn't. We should be getting them from the people we come into contact with daily. And if you can surround yourself with like a group of people that keep you present and keep you centered, like that is the greatest gift that I've ever gotten or ever stumbled upon.
That's super impactful, because, you know, again, I'm a firm believer, and I think it sounds like you are too. It's your inner circle first, you know, is always most important, whether it be your fiance, your friends, your family. It's got to be that first before you worry about, you know, all the circles out here. It's got to be, you got to have that strong core that is where you're getting. It's not necessarily what's going on in the world, but what's going on in their world is, I think, really important. And being present is huge, because I think that is what I kind of thought of when I was doing this. Obviously, I could talk, and we probably will several times as we go into the holiday season. But I mean, this is the time of year, I think it's super apparent, even if it is kind of a funny way of looking at it, is that if all you're doing is waiting for the end of the year, you know, or you do that whole thing, it's like, I'll start eating better on Monday. And it's like, well, it's Wednesday. Like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, it's, I think there's this delusional phase that you lose time, in an essence, that you're losing that time because you are so focused on what is way out there, whether it be next week or next month or next year or the next, again, promotion or whatever it might be. That's not how you get there in a productive way. You're basically just on cruise control, and you're so stressed about getting to that point so you can enjoy it. And then that moment comes and goes, and you have to put the Christmas tree away. You gotta, all right, well, I got the promotion, I got, you know, whatever it might be. And now what? What's the next great thing? What's the next thing you want to skip forward to? You know what I mean? It's, you know what it reminds me of is if you guys seen that Adam Sandler movie, Click. I just thought of this. Have you guys seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you seen that?
I know of it. I have not watched it.
That's the whole thing. So anyways, it's a silly movie, but it is that whole, you know, he goes and he gets that magic remote control from Christopher Walken. Funny. But, you know, it's like anytime he wants to like skip forward, you know, through the boring shit in life, and he does this over and at
hard
first
parts.
It's great. What's that?
The hard parts.
Through the hard parts.
The hard parts. Can we skip to the good part? And he kept doing that, and then all of a sudden he's, you know, basically old and dying, and, you know, he just skipped everything, and he misses what are essentially some of the really building blocks of what got them, and what is where you get the true appreciation of the good parts. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen it, I'll definitely check it out.
Does he use the mute button?
Yeah,
he does the mute button, which you might be using as I was talking about that. That's cool.
Well, I kind of agree with Mike. Like, I'm one of those that, because the day after Halloween, on November 1st, literally there was a popular radio station here in Columbus started playing Christmas music.
No.
And then 2 days later, another one of the stations that I listened to on one of my presets started playing Christmas music. So out of the 6 stations that I normally listen to, 2 of them are playing Christmas music. And I don't like to listen to Christmas music this early, because there's only so many times you can hear either the same song over and over, or the same song by 30 different artists over and over. Like, I can't, like, I get tired of it very quickly. But at the same time, I know there's a few songs that my wife really enjoys. So if we're in the car together, I might turn it over to that station in the hope that one of those songs comes on, just because it makes her happy when she hears some of those songs.
I mean, it's expected, but I'm gonna get in trouble with Kristen, you know, same way. Like, I was playing Christmas music, so we were talking about that. She's huge.
Okay.
Into that. But go ahead.
But like, I walked into a Kroger today, and as soon as I walk in, it just smelled like Christmas wreath, and they have Christmas decorations up, and all the Halloween candy is 70% off and everything. I'm like, you guys do realize, like, there's another big food holiday between now and Christmas, huge. Right? Like, there's another.
Not just a food holiday.
Yeah, it's
not just a food holiday. The holiday that reminds you to be thankful for all of the shit leading up to there, and then taking you over with the joy of being thankful for all those things to giving gifts to other people that you care about. Like that's what's missed. It's not the Black Friday deal. I can get a TV. I can get a TV. That's not the reason for the season. And the thankfulness of the people you surround yourself with. We do Friendsgiving every year with a bunch of our friends. And it's that moment where I get to just be like, I get to love on you all year and be a part of your lives. And like, now we're going to cook and we're going to celebrate that and celebrate the meaning of what you mean to me personally, or us as a couple, or us as a household, or us as a family of friends. Like, we're going to celebrate that together. And then leading into Christmas, that you can't miss that part. That's an important part, that thankfulness, that humbling, that introspection of you and how horrible you are compared to everybody else, because you don't know everybody else that much as well as you know yourself. You know yourself, you know how much you love yourself, how much you dislike yourself. You can be hard on yourself if you're good at like self-analytics, but that Thanksgiving period is so important to just, I don't know how people don't celebrate it with people they care about, because that would be the death of it for me.
Well, I know for me, sometimes the holidays, such as Thanksgiving and Christmas, those are a little bit more stressful, probably more for me than they are for my wife, just because there's so much traveling to go visit family.
Stressful.
Yeah, and when we first got married, like, we had this idea, like, all right, we'll spend Thanksgiving with my family, Christmas with yours, and then next year we'll do Thanksgiving with yours and Christmas with mine. And then we both had some relatives that were really getting up there in age, and so like she didn't want to miss out any of the holidays, because she didn't want to something tragic to happen in between the time. Yeah. And so all of a sudden it became to where, like, on Thanksgiving, we're driving 2 hours up to my in-laws, doing Thanksgiving, and then either later that night or the next day driving back, because then I got to go to work. Or Christmas is probably one of the worst ones, because we'll drive up to her in-law or to her family Christmas Eve, do Christmas up there at one house, do Christmas at another house, and then drive to my family down here, which is a little more than, they live a little further south than we do. So it, like, by the time I get to my family, I just want to sit down and relax. And unfortunately, there's a shit ton of little kids running around. So I'm like, just leave. I've already eaten. I don't need to eat anything else. I just want to sit here and relax, because I've been sitting in a fucking car all day long.
Yeah.
I don't think you're skipping to a good part with that mentality there.
Well,
you skipping to the good part is like, just let me go home.
Yeah, that's the good. It's the good part, because that's when I can relax, and I don't have to worry about all those stressors of doing everything. I know when my sister and her husband first got married, on Christmas Day, they're trying to do our dad's family, and then her husband's family, and then our mom's family, because our parents are split, so each family's doing stuff. And
you got to get to the point, man, where you just don't
you can't please
life
everybody.
Has moved on.
Yeah,
like, I'm sorry, it would be great if you could be with everyone, you know what I mean, and you don't want to miss, I think that is something that you're talking about, like with if you skip to the good part of that, you lose those memories, right? The little shits are running around, and you just want to, like, kind of, like, for you, Nate, I just picture you kind of whiskey in hand, and you just like, he would never do this, but just sitting there, on like the couch with like a little TV tray, and you just like pull out your handgun, just kind of set it there, and just say, just don't mess with Uncle Nate.
No, I would not do that.
I know. I picture that. It'd be a funny movie. Probably offend someone, but
I'm carrying.
Great movie. Great movie. Uncle come.
That'd be a great scene, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's Uncle Nate. Like, he's a little different.
Everybody's like, I got this uncle to complain about, apparently. And so, to have them just come in and be like, hey, here's the deal. Leave me alone. How's that for uncle? You're gonna
At
complain.
least you would like turn
Crazy
the
uncle?
knife like in a mafia, like, restaurant. You know what I mean? You like kind of turn the knife towards the kid that's annoying the shit out of you. Just to,
Oh,
like,
my
send that
family.
signal.
My family was giving swirlies at Christmas, like with all
See,
the
that's
older
just
cousins,
the memory.
and so you get kind of just like you come in, you get a little bit tortured, but then you're like slowly ascending in this society in which you do take the kids upstairs to throw the reindeer food out the window so that they
Sure.
come, and you do set up the Santa, and you do make it so someone goes up there and hits the roof so it sounds like reindeer, but you also torture them endlessly until
try
can
to
come back.
refrain from that. I have my own opinions on the whole Santa Claus thing. We talked about that on the show before.
We've had a few episodes where you don't
We'll see where this goes this holiday season.
Sounds like a Krampus over there.
Yeah, I don't have any kids. I just don't know if I feel comfortable lying to them. That's all I'm going to say right now. But those are the memories, right? That is something I think that is really important, and I think that is kind of, I think it's on topic there, where it's you kind of, sometimes it's not looking forward to the next holiday or the next big thing. It's like if you're not into it, say you have I don't know. Say with the holidays, the easiest one. If you're talking like Nate, where it's like, yeah, I look forward to it, but it's a big, like, it's super stressful. I can't wait till it's over. I think
That's too much.
Well, I think it's I think you need to realize that it's like, who are you making happy? And if it's not you, how do you reframe your mindset to a point where, like, yeah, this is stressful, but I got to make the best of it. You know what I mean? Like, how do I find a way to not only really kind of enjoy that moment of, say, Thanksgiving coming up? You know what I mean? I don't necessarily want to be at someone's house, whether it be a relative or your own, where you're eating Thanksgiving dinner with the Christmas tree at the table. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't get it, and I'm going to get a lot of heat from this.
Not from me.
Not from you. But no, it's, I really think it is, like, when you're doing all the traveling, all that stuff, it can be stressful. So how do you make the best of that situation? And because, hopefully relaxation or whatever it might be, the next, you go through those stressful situations, and it's like, with the mentality of, can we skip to the good part? Try to make the best of it. I think there is some value there that you will possibly look back on those things. And it's not necessarily that you miss the travel, miss having hit like this many houses or driving all this way on the holidays. You might actually really appreciate a day where, sadly, certain people have passed, or you've grown distant, and you're sitting there, and it's like you're having Thanksgiving or Christmas at your own place. It's you and Jess, maybe if you have kids or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Or, you said, Mikey, you and your fiance, they evolved to a point. But I do think that we all look back and say, you have these fond memories of these holidays. You have these fond memories of these things that at the time were very annoying. Not necessarily you're gonna miss driving to 4 locations on Thanksgiving or on Christmas, and you had to make sure that you're like, oh, stressing out about, like, did we get everyone's presents? Did we is the turkey done right? It's like you can have all those stressors, but making the best of it is I think just taking a step back and appreciating it, and then actually saying, like, 10, 20, 30 years from now, what do I want to look back on this, and really think fondly of what can I appreciate from this day? What can I appreciate from this season? All of this. Because, again, I think if you're just constantly looking for tomorrow or the next day where you can have your way, I think it's a mentality that puts your life a little bit in that fast forward speed.
And then if you end up at that point, it's like, where do I go from here? Like,
Right.
Where do you go after you're already to the good part? Like, how long does the good part last? And then I practice. I'm a musician by heart, so I played music for most all my life, all over, from the Warped Tour stuff to Summerfest in Wisconsin, to different venues and shows here and there. In my youth, I played a lot of music, and now being 30 and like finally being at a point where it's like, oh, I'm going to start practicing these things that I love to do. I started drumming again for the first time in 10 years, probably maybe 7 months ago. And to skip to the good part to where I am now, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with my time when I'm down to practice every day for 30 minutes to an hour is
Sure.
like, I don't know. Like I'm there, or not being a cigar rep, working in a retail store, being there, being present, trying to get that rep job to get launched in the industry. Once you're there, you guys have mentioned in past podcasts the honeymoon period of being a rep or a salesperson. Like that honeymoon period goes away. And so you have to be looking past that initial goal, past that initial thought, past that initial wanting to be or wanting to grow that area. You have to look past that into that next position. You have to know your next chess move in life. How are you going to get to that promotion after the promotion that you're currently going after? Do you have a plan for that? Do you know where to go with that? Taking it back to the practice side of things, where like once you achieve something, once you become the rep, it will become extremely easy for you to be lost.
Yeah.
You become very lost if you don't have that goal ahead of the goal, because
Well,
you don't know what to do next. You don't even know what step to take because you don't have that next opportunity, that next thing lined up in your head to go from,
I think it's great to have those, weeks ago we talked about the goals and everything like that, but if you snap your fingers and say you fast forward to that where you got that position or whatever, right? Or if it falls in your lap, right? So all of a sudden you're like, man, I really want to be like, I want to be a cigar rep, right? Or for you with the Mikey Lights It and company, you want to be, it's like, man, I want to have tomorrow. It's like the whole winning the lottery mentality, right? Wouldn't it be nice type mentality,
Love
right?
it.
So skip to the good part. So tomorrow, if I had a genie bottle and all that stuff, it's like I want 1 million subscribers to now a monthly Mikey Lights It, shipment. And it's like, all right, tomorrow morning you wake up and you have all that shit. It's like, all right, now I have 1 million. You don't know what to do with it. To your point, like you're not prepared because you didn't get there. You didn't appreciate the setbacks you had. You didn't learn the lessons you needed to learn. You don't appreciate, I guess, that journey that's going on to the point where it's like now you're at the good part with, to your point, not the end all be all. It's not deathbed type stuff. It's literally, it's like, I lived a good life. It's like, all right, I hit that goal. Now it's like, all right, I'm not ready because it came too fast.
Too successful, too
all
quick.
I was hoping for is this. And it's like, shit, while I was focusing on this, say it does happen. That's great. But are you humbled enough? Did you have those learning obstacles that were in your way? Did you take something from it? Did you fail? Did you, go from, say, for that project that you're on right now, you want, let's say, 1 million people, 1 million customers every month. It's like, did you hit a 250,000 and all of a sudden 6 months later, you're back down to 100 because something that you weren't prepared for on the outside, call it whatever, COVID or, like those types of outside threats that you were
back orders.
Back orders. Yeah. Like I got all this stuff. Now I can't get the product. Now I got people pissed off. They're unsubscribing. They're giving bad reviews, whatever it is. Those are those stepping stones that will get you to, I think you don't want to skip to the good part. You don't want to just dream about these things. And then when it does happen, you want to be prepared because you actually really were letting yourself be impacted by those blocking points, those hurdles, those things where you really kind of hit and you look back and you're like, I need to quit this. I need to do something else. But you stuck with it. You went through all those hurdles and you got more successful. But the only reason that you can sustain that success and grow further is because you had those moments that you really appreciate looking back. I think that's a big part of it.
Well, I've seen some of that in my previous position with my current employer. At one point I went through 4 managers in 4 years because every time a manager got into that management position, they were solely focused on the next promotion, the next step. And because they were so heavily focused on what was next, they never truly gave themselves to the role that they had.
Right.
And so, things within our team kind of deteriorated. Morale deteriorated. We used to have managers of our team that if someone all of a sudden was sick one day, that manager would jump in and kind of help pick up the slack for being one person down. And then the last two managers I had in that position couldn't even do the most basic things of the job because they were so focused on their next goal professionally that they forgot that they were managing a team.
Yeah.
And that sometimes that team needs help or needs direction. But because that, helping that team didn't have a positive impact on their next goal, they just completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
And so it was up to the team to pick up that slack. And so, the rest of the team is sitting there going, well, shit, what is this person actually doing to help us? And then all of a sudden, there are times I wish, because every year managers have to do reviews of the people that they manage. I wish that, employees got to do reviews of their manager because I think
that's a slippery slope.
I know, but I think that's a way that would actually provide, some honest feedback of what might be lacking.
Even if that was anonymous, that's bad news, man. No, that's bad news. Because the yes men would absolutely just be all positive. They know who it came from. If you were critiquing them, that would be bad. The thing that I find out to that point, when someone is in a sense they've been promoted too quickly and now they're your boss and you get to review time and we're like the new trend, the new hot thing to do, because you don't want to necessarily. Even as a boss, you don't want to come down too hard. You're like, all right, so first thing, this year for reviews, we're going to do the self-review. And I expect your review of yourself by this date. So just submit that on this form, and you're going to do your self-review, and then I'll review that. That's such bullshit, first of all.
Yes.
That's a side note, but I think it's bullshit.
How many people are going to give an honest feedback about themselves and some of the negative things that they've done?
Yeah. And if you miss something that they're thinking of, they're going to bash you. It's like having like an interview process while you're employed. It's terrible.
The worst.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving, Mikey? You have the Friendsgiving you talked about.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then I think people have an issue with overcommitting for the holidays, where you just try to squeeze too many things into one weekend, in which I'm very lucky that my parents and whatnot are kind of gone for the holidays, where I have more free time around the season to, after Thanksgiving, I'll spend the weekend before that up hunting. And then I'll do like a little Thanksgiving with my mom's side. And then other than that, until Thanksgiving Day, I'm free. I'm free until Thanksgiving Day, in which, my fiance, her family is awesome. They own a wonderful Chinese restaurant in Wisconsin by us in Waukesha. And so that's the day they're closed. So that's a huge family opportunity for us to spend time with, for me with the in-laws and family, but her with her family for Thanksgiving. And we actually don't do turkey. We'll do like a hot pot, which is the best.
Hot pot?
Yeah. And that's when you'll have a burner on the table, and then you'll have a pot. And normally we have it separated into two. So there's a divider in this pot. And then one side will be spicy and one side will be not spicy. And so we'll just throw different dishes in to cook in this pot. And my fiance, I should have said this earlier, is Chinese. And so we'll take this big pot and we'll just cook all of our food that we want. The noodles, we'll throw in the ramen, we'll throw in the shrimp, we'll throw in, whatever we want. And then it'll cook in the boiling water, the hot water. And then you just slowly but surely pull yourself out what you want to eat.
I like that.
Dude, it's great.
That's Thanksgiving for you?
Yeah, that's every year Thanksgiving. But it's the overcommitting. Like if if one of my other grandparents said, "Hey, could you come out and do this?" Like I love my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side very much. I love my grandparents on my father's side very much as well. And my grandpa passed years ago, but like I'd be into joining some of those festivities if it was a big event. But I'm lucky it's not, so I can get out and I spend it with the in-laws with no interference from my family at all. Which is hard because then if my family was there, it'd be like, oh, I have to go there. I have to go do this, and then I have to go do this, and then I have to go do this, and then I have to go like back home. It's like that's a lot of commitment every year versus spending, I like to spend intentional time with the people I'm with, where it's like very focused on us and what we're doing and, what we're talking about, what we're drinking, how we're interacting. Like that relationship part is super important to me. So not getting myself broken up in a bunch of different ways every holiday season seems to work quite well.
I would say this on that regard with the whole holiday thing, with the topic at hand. Sometimes the good part is when you can be yourself, like you're talking about, Mike. Like it's when you have to go to a family function. Holidays are a great example of this, right? Or like weddings, or like whatever it might be, right? And you have this mentality where it's like you can't be yourself. Like you smoke cigars, you drink whiskey, all that stuff. You know what I mean? You have all that, and you go to Nate. I'm not aiming this towards you.
Please do.
I'm not. As I was saying this, I remember our conversation from the past. Why is that knife pointed at me? When you have to be someone that you're not. And that is the biggest stressor, right? That's the biggest thing. It's like, I'll go, you know what I mean? But it's like, I got to go there, and I can't go out for a smoke because they don't like smoking. I can't be myself. I can't bring a bottle of wine, and then, I'm not saying be reckless and just get hammered at your, family function.
Enjoy yourself. You want to be able to be yourself and enjoy your time with them and bringing, what you enjoy to them and sharing it with them versus being judged.
Yeah, and it's that part of it. It's like, again, as we grow older and you try to keep these family traditions together as you're the kid, right? You said you're 30.
Yeah.
So as a 30-year-old, you're trying to sometimes make everyone happy because you're the kid of the family still. You know what I mean? Like it's that awkward age between, I think, like kind of 15 all the way up to like 35, where it's like you're still like, am I sitting at the kids' table or am I like with the adults? Like, who's all here? And it's like, all right, well, I'll be at the kids' table, but I'm gonna bring one of the bottles of wine over the kids' table. You know what I mean? And it's like you have that. I think there is part of that where it's like you want to be able to really enjoy that part of it. And I think that's going back to the whole thing of like, can we skip to the good part? It's like, the good part is like, yeah, man, I can go back to being myself. It's like, well, if you're trying to keep tradition alive, you're trying to like look for the next thing. Like when you're talking about the holidays, you're trying to do all this stuff. It's like, you know what? Sometimes I think you have to really, in a respectful way, be like, I also am going to come as myself. And I know that not everyone's going to be pleased with it as long as I keep it in check. But it's like, you respect the house rules. I get that. You know what I mean?
I think it's easier to do when you're visiting in-laws. Like you're already looked at negatively sometimes, depending on the in-laws. So you're like, fuck it, I don't care. If you guys didn't like me before, you're definitely not gonna like me next year. So.
I think with in-laws, especially earlier on, I mean, let's depend on who the in-laws are. I think that that might be the one where you do kind of scale yourself back, and you're like, all right, yeah, we're gonna. I just want to keep in the good graces of the family. But with your family, it's like, look, I'm not a kid anymore. You know what I mean? This is who I am. If you want me at Thanksgiving, you want me at Christmas, you want to do this stuff, I'll be respectful, and I am not going to get carried away with this stuff. I'm not going to like light up a cigar in the dining room, but it's like at the same time, I remember some of those times where it's like, on a nice warm Thanksgiving. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go out on the patio while you guys are, doing whatever, around like the appetizers and all that stuff. But I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna pour myself a glass and I'm gonna smoke a cigar. I remember a time where my dad, when he was still with us, that he kind of transitioned to the point where it's like, hey, I picked up a bottle of Jameson. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm going to get hammered at the family function, but he's seeing me. He's like, this is like that common interest. He didn't even drink it, but he wanted to make sure he had it. So it's like, hey, we can go sit back on the back patio. And he smoked cigarettes for years. He was not a huge drinker, but he was like more of like the vodka drinker, the martini guy, all that stuff. And it's like, but he saw that, but it took a turning point for me where it's like, I can go to a family function and, no one really drinks and all that stuff. Everyone talks about, oh, my family's crazy. Like, everyone drinks and all that stuff. Other people are like, my family's crazy. And you get there and it's like, no, it's not. It's normal. But if you go in there as yourself, there was a turning point where it's like, I'm going to go out back. All right. So other people are like, oh, we can go out back and hang out and kind of break away from all the family. I think it just takes that one person in some function, like certain family functions, to be able to be like, yeah, I'm going to go out back too. I'm not going to smoke. Do you have a cigar? Like, there's one of those things, it's like, I think that once you start being yourself and living in the moment, you're like, no, I'm going to merge everything, my everyday life. And I'm going to merge it with the family tradition and do all this stuff. And some people are not going to like it. Grandma might not like it, but there's going to be a couple of people that are around you like, this is okay. So I'm going to go with Steve. I'm going to go with Mikey. I'm going to go with Nate. I'm going to go with whoever you are. So I'm going to go out back and we're going to hang out for a little bit. Just call us when dinner's ready.
I'm going to have the best holiday party with the family ever.
Right.
It's not, I come from a very, my father's side's very German. And so like no drinking, no smoking was always kind of a huge thing with the rhetoric from my grandparents who, like I said previously, I loved my late grandfather. I loved him forever. He was one of the best people ever. And my grandmother as well were like, oh, you can't have these things. And then my parents were much more lax, like, oh no, you can have these things. Like, we get it. You love these things. These are like, from a very young age, I kind of figured, oh, I love cigars. So like, I'm going to chase that and I'm going to learn everything I can. And I'm going to experience and smoke all the cigars that I've ever had at my disposal. And I'm going to learn that's what I'm going to learn. And, through the last, I don't know if Mikey Lights It Co taught me anything about being in the industry for the last 10 to 12 years has been when working through it, I realized like, I'm just going to be me. I'm going to take the same approach I take with any of my accounts wholesale, with any of my accounts when I was at Alec Bradley being a sales rep. We talk about sales reps who give to you versus take away and or just give you their shit. And if you want me to give you my shit as a sales rep, if you and me are hanging out, Steve, and it's like, oh, I'm in your store, I'm your rep for this cigar company, my shit doesn't matter that much to anybody. People say, you complain, but no one listens because no one cares because everybody has the same shit going on. But sorry, I get sidetracked a lot. My brain's wild.
It's all right.
Hey, I appreciate it. Sharon 6. Heck yeah. See, I got all my cousins smoke cigars with me, Tim. All of them from that side, that's super against any of it. We all have cigars and whiskey together. It's amazing. It's the best. We get to spend quality time together instead of just having an initial sibling as one of my best friends or friends I've gained over the years who are interested in things that I'm interested in, being a part of my inner circle. Like I have plenty of cousins that I spend time with, and I have a cigar with them once a month. Well, some of them once a week, and just like they're my people because I know I've known them for forever. And also they care about me and they're here to enjoy this thing with me without judgment. And it provides a huge value to our relationship. And I think that's the key of cigars is providing a huge value to relationships that you can make. And so
100%.
Well, it definitely did for me because, my dad used to smoke like the gas station type cigars. He always smoked like cherry blends and Habatampas and stuff like that. And then I picked up cigar smoking when I was in college. And then the very next Christmas, I went to a tinderbox and I bought 4 pairs of cigars. And so that way my dad and I each had the same cigars. And I gave those to my dad for Christmas.
yeah.
And then my dad and I, at one point, like after we ate, we would, break away, as Steve alluded to, and we'd go out in the garage and we'd have a cigar. Even though at the time I didn't drink, we would still go out to the garage and have a cigar. And that was a way for me to connect and hang out with my dad kind of away from the crowd, but kind of have that quality time together. And so we would do that like every single year. And it was always funny. Like me, my dad, my sister, when she used to smoke, we'd all be in the garage. My stepmom is in the house with her kids and their kids. And then after like 20 minutes, my stepmom's coming out to the garage like, hey, are you guys going to come back in? I thought we were going to continue this game. It's like, yeah, but like we're bonding here. Like we're smoking cigars. Like we're having a good time. You're with your kid. Like, yes, the games are fun and everything. But it's like, this is kind of a little bit more of an intimate setting because like we're just hanging out, smoking cigars. We can't do that in your house because the living room that we're having Christmas in, that is the one time a year that room gets used. So it's like, it's like, it's a little strict of a household. It's like, that's a way for my dad also to kind of break away.
So I'm looking at this and I'm listening to what you're saying and going back to the previous part of this conversation where it was like, you're talking about the stressors and everything else, like traveling and all that. These are those memories that I'm saying is super important and very impactful, that through those growing pains of as the kids get older and new people come in, right? You talked about that, Mikey, with, your fiance, right? You've been with her for, you said 8 years.
Yeah.
So 8 years. I mean, 8 years ago, you were, still in your early 20s and you were kind of the kid of the family, right? So it's like you come in there and at that point, what we're talking about, and you come in with cigars and you come in with a bottle of whiskey and they're like, so Mikey has some problems that we need to really address.
Mostly that's it. That all of it. Even if I don't bring the whiskey and cigars, they're like, oh yeah, there's issues here. Not
well, that'll never go away as long like,
I'm used to it.
Big proponent that whoever is, especially for those that are fortunate enough to have a good family support system, right? You're always going to be the kid. Moms will always be moms, dads will always be dads, grandparents will always be grandparents, like all that stuff, right? But those are those, like you're talking about, Nate, with you and your dad and like all those are the new memories. There is an effort there, I think, that you do have to again enjoy that process of, yeah, I used to not look forward to this. How can I make myself look forward to this? Also be respectful to the house and where you're going for the holidays, whatever it might be, and also be respectful for in the kind of the parallel there is like, how can I look forward to making myself known as who I am and who I'm becoming, but also respect the position I'm in with the company I'm at without overstepping my boundaries.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. It's like if you come into, your in-laws, or like when you first started dating your now fiance and you came in there and you're just like, what is this? Like, I mean, I'm used to turkey. I'm used to this and all this stuff. And you just come in and you're like, no, this is not Thanksgiving. You probably wouldn't have a fiance right now, or at least that fiance right now.
Yeah. It's also,
you got to walk that path, right?
Yeah. Like I was trying to say earlier, like I said, my brain, you guys can ask Rob or any of the reps on there who know me, that I'm pretty scatterbrained normally, but, what I was saying earlier with Mikey Lights It and trying to figure that out and figuring out writing for a magazine, figuring out what to do. How am I interesting? Am I interesting? I don't think I am at all. I'm just a person who spent a lot of time in one industry, dedicated to something that very few. I mean, we're all in the industry here, so we know how big the industry is. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people per area that don't smoke cigars. So what I was learning as I was coming, when we were working with this, was Ethan would ask me like, "Oh, how do you want to be seen on this? What do you want about this? How do you feel about this article idea?" And it was like, I can't be anybody but me, dude. And like, I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to always be me. If that means I'm on an edible at, whatever place at 8 o'clock at night, having a good time, that means that's me. If that means I'm, it's hard to be you all the time, because you're always worried about what anybody else is going to say, what anybody else is going to think, what anybody else is going to interject into what you're doing. That's like, don't do that shit. Don't do it. Don't waste your time. Because if you don't waste your time, you can find people that love you. You can find people that care about you. And you can find that, family that you need for, Friendsgiving, to make it special, to make the season pop. Or if it's, every year we try to have friends over on Christmas Eve after the festivities to make super spiked hot cocoa with like peppermint schnapps up the ass, because we're from Wisconsin. And then we watch it, and we invite all of our friends over to watch it with us, because it's Christmas Eve and it's special. But the rigmarole of getting from to and fro and fast and slow to make the world go round with your family is too much sometimes, especially when you get to extended and extra extended. And so we're always trying to, like, Ying and I always try to spend quality time with the people, because that's, you can be you if you spend time with people. If you go to your grandparents who are super conservative and you just hang out with them and spend time with them, you will be able to be yourself eventually. I promise you. They 100%. Will love you because you're putting in the time, same with the rep, same with the marriage. You're putting in the time to show that you care, and you're not doing anything bad or villainous by bringing a bottle or bringing a cigar to Christmas with you. You're not at all. It's not an issue, you know? And so to continuously be yourself all of the time is a very hard thing to do, but it also is the most rewarding, because you can tell people, like, I can't be there on this occasion. I can't be around for this. I can't make time for this, but I will be there for your birthday, or I will be there for this event, or I will be there next month to say hi on a random ass Tuesday. Those in between moments between you, before you get to that good part, are like the most important parts of life.
I agree completely. And I mean, if you have this vision of, again, talking about the holidays, this is a great, I think, example of this. It's like, I can't wait for a time where, it's like I can get to my, you and Ying. It's like I can get to my soon-to-be in-laws or her in-laws, and it's like, say you do spend a Thanksgiving. I mean, that's always a battle, right? It's like, how do we spend the holidays? Everyone expects to, like, okay, like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Again, it's like, okay, we have to be at my Thanksgivings and your Thanksgivings have to be at your Christmases and my Christmases. Like, no, at some point, based on proximity, based on, time available, you have to negotiate those things where it's like, okay, we'll do Thanksgiving at your place, Christmas at my place. Next year, we'll flip it. And that's hard for some families to realize. But if you just look at the point, it's like, I just wish for the day, and hopefully in 10 years, I can come to Thanksgiving or Christmas or any family function and I can be myself. It's like, that is a good thing to shoot for. How do you get there? Can you skip to the good part? It's like, I just met my hopefully future father-in-law. And I hope I'm going to go in there. I'm going to be this sponge and like try to like really navigate through what they go through on this holiday and what it's all about. I'm going to be that person. And the next year, maybe be a little bit more myself. And next year, be a little bit more myself. again, in a respectful way, you got to be yourself to a point. I'm not saying like light up a cigar and, like just pound a bottle of whiskey or whatever it might be, at a family function the first time up. Yeah, show up with a flask and you look over the father-in-law like, you want to pull this, and it's like, I don't drink. It's like you gotta navigate that. I get that, but at a certain point, you need to be able to have that confidence as well as reading the room and realizing it's like, okay, like I'm not gonna just, everyone else is not drinking and I'm just gonna drink, or no one's smoking, I'm gonna smoke. And again, these are just, I guess, examples of who you might be as far as what you're into. But the nice thing about it is that if you have everything under control, you don't necessarily have to smoke a cigar on a holiday. But if that's important to you, you should be able to express that.
Mm-hmm. You should be able to go out and have that cigar. You should be able to go out and enjoy that time.
At the very least, you should be able to express yourself to a point where I think, the response will either be, yeah, we don't really smoke in this family. We don't really do that on this holiday. But I think people will be surprised a lot of times where it's like, if you're yourself to a point, but you're also respectful, they might ask the opposite. They might be like, well, did you bring any cigars? Do you, I mean, we don't have any whiskey. Do you have any like in the trunk or anything? Like, did you bring, you know what I mean? Or like, hey, next time you come over, you should bring something with you. Like, I don't drink, but like, I'd be totally cool with hanging out with you and we can talk and all that stuff. And all of a sudden you have these bonding moments like you're talking about, Nate, that where if you didn't offer that up, you may have never had those building blocks to where, wouldn't it be nice if I got to that point? It's like the good part would be is if I had these holiday traditions, you're talking about that, Mikey, too, is that you never know when you create new holiday traditions while hopefully respecting and appreciating what you grew up with and all that stuff, especially if they're good, because you could bring something to the table to these holidays that really turn into new traditions or adapted traditions that never would have happened if all you did was to just sit back there. And the response would be, no, he's cool. Like, like he's a nice guy, but he's just kind of, he didn't really bring anything to the family. I mean, he just kind of like went along with everything. He's kind of vanilla. He's kind of, he's just like, what does he do? All the while you're just trying to be like, no, I'm just trying to make everyone else happy. I'm trying to, that's not good for you. It's not good for you to be someone that you're not, just so you can get to a point where it's like, skip to the good part is that I have family around me. I have a fiance, I have a wife, I have in-laws, I have all this stuff. And I have this tradition. It's like, you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, I don't like this. Because you didn't put the work in. You skipped to the good part that you thought was the good part. And all of a sudden it's like, well, now I'm here. And it's like,
whose kid is that again? Who's
exactly.
I have a big family. So yeah, who's that? What's that kid's name? Who's he belong to?
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Name tags at holidays are smart. I agree.
No,
it's hard.
Yeah, that's kind of like at my mom's family for Thanksgiving or Christmas. I think it was last year. My cousin's wife, her parents came to Thanksgiving, and my mom's family is one of those that actually goes around and says what they're thankful for before they eat, which is fine if there's like 8 to 10 of you. But when there's 30 of you in the house and you have to go around, and then
you better have some bottles of wine on the table.
And that family, yeah, there's no alcohol in that household.
I was not targeting you.
No, I know, but I could look over and I could see like how uncomfortable they were with that whole process. Like, you guys actually do, like, you stand up and hold hands and go around the circle and spend like an hour doing what you're thankful for, and we're all starving and the kids aren't paying attention. Now they're all running around the house and
kids have got to be wild. I don't have any born yet, but it's got to be a wild thing with that. Because normally for a Friendsgiving, which I consider like my Thanksgiving for like the year, is like,
that's where you're at right now.
Yeah, early 30. That's my that's my checkpoint, right? I'm 30,
Right.
so when we throw a Friendsgiving, we don't have the kids running around yet. Sometimes now we actually do, but we don't have to worry about that side of the game of like, oh, well, now we have to like not only say what we're thankful for, but make sure that little Johnny isn't, running off in the corner hitting things over with a bat because it's
Classic
a child.
Johnny.
Yeah, little Johnny's classic. And so it's like we don't have that. Most of the time it's just like a quick speech that I'll make for the group, like, hey, I am thankful for each and every one of you, and here's why. And like, here's why we're thankful for you from my perspective, and so I'll go down the table and I'll be, hey, this is why I appreciate you. This is why I'm glad you're here. This is why I love you, and like move on relatively quickly. We'll get like 20 people or so for Friendsgiving, maybe 25. And so it's just
That's
a quick
big
like
group.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's easy if everyone goes around and just like, says what they're thankful for. But then when you have someone that feels the need to interject after every single person's,
I would shut them down so hard.
Oh
I'd be like, shut up. We are not doing this.
I remember one year, it was either Thanksgiving or Christmas. My uncle, who's the youngest of the 6, he's got 4 kids, and they were all kind of young at the time, and they were all running around my grandmother's house. And my grandmother's got a lot of old stuff and fragile stuff around the house. Stuff. Oh yeah. But the kids were running around, and my mom, who's the oldest of the 6 kids, like she actually yells at her brother's kids about them running around. And my uncle yells out, he goes, hey, why don't you let the parents parent? And my mom goes, yeah, when are you going to start?
Yeah, see, that's where it gets a little deep. Good. Is that the family that doesn't drink?
Good job, Grandma.
Yes.
Okay, that's probably better they don't drink, because if they were drinking, that would turn into a world war. It's a tough thought. Yeah. We're gonna do it again, I think, this year. I'll talk to Nate about it. But one of the things that last year, no, 2 years ago, I had this mentality of the thought of, going around the table, what you're thankful for, right? That's classic, and I can appreciate that. But I had the idea of something that would be a good new tradition, maybe something you can incorporate into your Friendsgiving. And I'm going to do it probably for Rob Wilson from Rocky Patel, who you're talking about when he's here in the garage, hopefully, is flip the script, right? Again, this is one of those things. It's not necessarily like skip to the good part type stuff, which is the topic tonight, but it's you change the mentality. Is what do you want to be thankful for next year at Thanksgiving? That I think really changes people's mindset of when you do that. Even people that are ready for Christmas, they're ready for their winter vacation and all that stuff. It's like you really could have that I guess atmosphere where it's like, all right, no, we're not saying what we're thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying, what do you want to be thankful for next year?
And when we did that last year, I actually went back and listened to the first year when we did that.
Yeah.
And I actually wrote down what each of us had said we wanted to be thankful for.
They don't all pan out.
so that way we can.
They don't always pan out.
Not always.
No, yeah. Last year was a little different.
That's all right.
There were some changes. But it was
give it enough time, they pan out though.
Yeah. It was interesting though to actually look back, because it was also because I had written that stuff down before the episode. I read off what each of us had said we wanted to be thankful for. And it was a way for us to actually reflect and evaluate, the journey from that. Like, did we actually get there, or are we at least on the right track to get there?
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of those self-reflections. Like, you hear a lot of people, we've talked about in the past about doing, the New Year's resolutions. Most people, they don't last very long.
Correct.
But then if you sit there the next year and you're like, hey, you remember a year ago when you said like, this is what you want to do? And that person's like, oh shit, I forgot about that.
Right.
And it makes them realize, like, sometimes they'll sit there and be like, damn, I didn't do that. What the hell happened? And it's kind of Like I dropped the ball on that one, and sometimes it's more motivation to work on that a little bit harder, take it a little bit more seriously.
Well, I think with that, again, going back to the initial topic of skip to the good part, you set those goals, or like, man, I want to get to the point where, again, when I brought this up with the whole TikTok thing, I was like, you're sick, you want to get stronger. You're in the fitness journey thing, and it's like, oh, I was just learning how to squat, and now look at me. You know what I mean? It's like, what got you there? What's the motivation? It's like, it's fine to be motivated by being in a low point, but again, if all you're doing is looking for the next promotion, looking for going from the first date to finding your special someone, or it's just a self-evaluation thing on you, it is because you don't skip to the good part.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never get there unless you really continue to put in the effort and appreciate what I was saying earlier is all the setbacks, all the things that you thought, I'm going to get here and it'll be real easy. I'm going to give myself enough time, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden 5 years later, it's a totally different life because you have things come into your life that you weren't expecting. You met someone, you lost it, you got fired, you have all that stuff. And it's like, you get so consumed on the now in a bad way, as opposed to being consumed with the now instead of being consumed with the good part, that you absolutely are invested in your own life. And that then goes back to what you were saying, Mikey, that inner circle that, you start with your core instead of just focusing on, well, in 2 years from now, I'm going to have so many people that are looking up to me. I'm going to have so many people buying cigars from me and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, that would be nice. How are we going to get there? You're not going to skip to it. It's just not going to happen.
No, and it's also hard to take that point in which you start the journey. Let's say my journey would be premium cigar side, where it's like, okay, here's where I'm at. I'm working full time. I'm climbing trees every week for years and years and years, to the point where now I do premium cigars full time. I've done it full time for 6 years or so at this point. And what's the next step? How do I take all of those hours and experiences, focused with intent experiences, smoking cigars and learning the industry for however many years, and then make that something that benefits me versus something that just is, well, that's great. How do you market that? How do you move that? How do you sell that? How do you make that valuable in any type of facet after putting in all that hard work? Because you find a lot of times, I'm only 30, so a lot of people I know still could still be in school or finishing school or moving through doctorates programs or moving through masters or whatever it may be, where it's like, well, what's my next step after I get out of this? And it's like, how do you market what you've learned all those years? What did you study intensely? What did you gravitate towards? What did you find passion in? Yeah. It's hard to turn that into a reality. And so, yeah, it's funny because I joked with you before we started, Steve, where it's like, Rob's one of my best friends in the whole world. I talk to him every week almost. And for him to know me from this shop kid who has grown, to whatever degree you could say I grew.
Sure.
What makes him special? How do we market that? How do you push that? How do you make it so people know that you give a shit? It's a very hard line to find, or it's a very hard place to put. Yeah, it's still a very hard place to just figure out where to push off from, because you do put in all those work. I laughed when I met Nick Maleo when I was 24, living in Honduras, going up to Nicaragua for a day with the cigar tour. and he moved there at like 26 or something like that.
Right.
But like Drew Estates, I love Nick, first off, so we can just start there. Foundation is the best. We wholesale foundation from the company I work for. I also smoke a insane amount of foundation. I love Nick and his product, and I love that he's like true to loyal to the soil is what I always joke.
You love
two artists. Yeah, I love anything Nick does. The Habano Charter Oak isn't my favorite, but it's just like, does it burn well? Is the consistency good? Yes. Is the flavor good? Yes. That sometimes can exclude people like you or myself from like someone who's smoked everything. That can to just have that level of respect and trust in a product is hard to come by, and it's it's not, there's not many guys like that around in the main sphere of the game. Correct. At least on my side, wholesale, which would be for you like a liquor store or a C shop, head shop type thing. 100%. Where I deal with, where I'm like, well, I want these awesome cigars to sell everywhere because I love these people because they care about the product, and they really care about it because I've seen them and I know they're tenured. I've watched them. And, you know, to turn that into from like a normal job into my own venture out into the industry is a very hard thing to do. Even if I believe in them, even if I care about them, even if I love and like know that the product they're making is wonderful, that doesn't translate over to the general consumer all the time. And so I have to figure that out when I make my...
Let me turn it to Nate here for a second here. You know, I think a big part of this is, you know, patience. And I think that is something that, you know, I feel like, you know, is something that is part of this whole thing, is that patience is a big part of not just skipping to the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, like, how do you do that? Because right now, I mean, I'm not going to expose everything, you know, but it'd be like you have put yourself out there to you change positions, you've done this, and now on the career side of it, you're hoping to continue to grow your career.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just complacent with where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the start of it. Is you can appreciate where you are, but at the same time, you have to have something to move towards. Mm-hmm. Because you know what's the quote? The day you stop learning, or the day you stop growing is the day you start to die.
Correct.
I mean, so you have to have somewhere to go. Otherwise, everything just becomes a rut, and you you no longer appreciate, you know, the day to day. You look at it as mundane, and you know, if you're constantly looking at everything as the mundane, you overlook some of the good things that can happen along the way.
Yeah, and what if you don't get there? You know what I mean? Like that's why I say the patience part of it is those are the hurdles, right? That's the whole part of it, is that if you're focused on like the good part.
They've actually done studies where they have found the people that focus more on the journey than the destination appreciate more when they finally get to the destination.
And I think that's very, very accurate to what we've been talking about. Because
they're actually seeing like all the steps that actually got them there. Mm-hmm. You know, so if the only check mark on your list is, you know, whatever that final goal is, then until you hit that final goal, nothing matters.
Right.
Because that's all you're looking at is that final goal. The easiest thing to do when trying to hit a goal or a destination is to have those smaller short-term check marks, or checkpoints almost.
Mm-hmm.
Because, then once you accomplish this step, even though that might be minuscule in terms of the overall goal, it's still an accomplishment.
Right.
There's a financial personality that, he talks about, instead of when he talks about getting out of debt, you're not looking at getting rid of everything right away. You want to just get rid of the next one.
Mm-hmm.
And so
chip away at it, right?
Yeah. So his whole philosophy, like when it comes to getting out of debt, is focus on the smallest one first, regardless of interest rates. Focus on the smallest one first.
Knock something off.
Whereas logic or mathematics tells you to focus on the highest interest rate first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I think it was North Carolina did a study between the two and actually found that the people that focus on the smaller number first hit the goal faster than the people that focus on the percentage. Because it's a check mark. You're checking something off the list each time.
Yeah.
And it creates more motivation to get to the next one.
I like that.
You can't change overnight. You can't. You can't wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, I'm going to get to the gym right now, and then I'm going to come back and have my job. I'm going to go gym at this time, and then I'm going to get to my job, and then I'm going to meditate or read or study something, and then I'm going to get back to my normal job, and then I'm going to spend 8 hours doing that, and then I'm going to go, and after those 8 hours or so are done, I'm going to move to my next thing. Like, you can't just, change doesn't happen overnight. And so those small victories that, oh, what did I spend my 9 to 10 o'clock hour at tonight doing? Did I spend it working on something, or did I spend it doing something useless? Right. And you can't expect that complete changeover right away or overnight. It's small battles that are won.
That's the whole point of this whole skip to the good part. Yeah, I can't wait to be debt free. And when I got debt free, this is what I did. It's like, all right, well, what'd you do? How'd you get there? What is the best way to get there? It's the same thing, like you're talking about, like, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do this. And it's like, okay, why? Like, what's the goal here? And it's not just the whole mentality of, wouldn't it be nice? It's like, yeah, it would be nice if you were debt free, if you were, at a healthy, not just weight, but just a healthy lifestyle. It's not just trying to make other people happy. It's like, yeah, your ideal lifestyle, if you're just looking for the future, if you're just, hoping to skip to the good part, that good part is going to it's fleeting. It's getting further and further away from you. So yeah, you're 30 right now, you're in your late 30s, I'm in my early 40s. And it's like, yeah, that you can keep that mentality, but you most likely will have that mentality. If you don't focus on the now and on what you're doing, you're not going to be able to skip to the good part, because that good part is fleeting until you never achieve it, because you didn't actually really appreciate what it takes to get to the good part. Yep. And I think that goes back to like the whole, when I brought this up of that TikTok kind of trend is, yeah, I want to get to the good part. Well, a lot of people will just get to the good part for the moment, and they're going to like rack up a credit card because I want to travel. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great to be in, wherever, like could be in the US, could be in, surrounding countries. It's like, yeah, I skip to the good part. It's like, yeah, I wanted to go to Australia, Europe, whatever it might be. And it's like, then all of a sudden you can show these videos and pictures of when you were there. And it's like, then it's over. Now you're back home. You're like, shit, now I got debt.
Time always goes. Time always passes. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, man, you're always losing it. If we're here doing this podcast, or if we're all three of us are on the mountain somewhere, like overlooking it, enjoying, the sunset, time will always be going. And not the older I get, because I am only 30, so it's not like
no, it's relevant to you too.
Life experience by any means, but we're always moving that dial forward. It's never stopping. Especially in the summer, spring, fall time, I spent a lot of time in my 3 Seasons room. I I don't have a studio at home or anything yet, but if this is my normal office,
Looks like a nice studio there.
I have
We're in a garage right now.
I'm lucky. When we bought our house, there was an exhaust fan in the breezeway, and so I have that shoot out that draws for me when I have a cigar out here for
Nice.
I working or something like this where I can have a cigar and enjoy it and not worry about the smoke going in the house or anything crazy.
Let me frame this here. Let's go into the closing remarks. Live listeners right now, it's getting late. Time changes happen. We've got a handful of listeners right now. I know a lot of people go back and listen to it. I hope they listen all the way through part 2. I know we have a dedicated following to the audio, so we can do this, right? And I appreciate the people who listen to this in their car and all that stuff when we put it on the audio. And this will be up next week. But going into the closing remarks, when you talk about can we skip to the good part, I'll lead it off with the comment, and kind of the mindset is, you don't know what the fuck the good part is. You think you do.
Yeah.
Right? That reaction.
You totally think you do. You think that the end all be all is it. It's not.
Yeah.
There's a
what
part.
The good part is to you at where you're at. I'm not using age, but you say at 30. What the good part was for you at 25 has changed. At 30, wherever you're at in age, wherever you're at in your career, your relationship, whatever it might be, your own personal health and all that stuff is like, you think you know what the good part is. And if you try to skip forward to that, you're going to be lost when you get to that point.
Your character gets built in those points, those checkpoints.
Absolutely. Because when you say skip to the good part, I think initially, even though you don't think that, if you just have that skip to the good, when it happens type thing, you might again be on your deathbed, hopefully 80, 90 years old, and you're like, I missed so many things, and you didn't talk to the girl, you didn't try to go for the job, you didn't try to change careers, you didn't go to the gym because I can do it this way. Well, if you think you know what the good part is, you missed this huge timeline segment of what could actually get you to what you appreciate as the good part. And what we're talking about with the holidays, you have to adjust your scope of what is the good part of now. We talk about the holidays, right? Again, like, I want to get to Christmas, but and again, that's somewhat trivial. But if you're just pushing that, right? So like, again, going back to that trivial thing of like, oh, okay, so November 1st happens. I'm looking forward to December 25th and the whole season. I'm going to lengthen that. It's like, why are you doing that? What do you want to accomplish with that? And what are you missing when you're just shooting that far in advance? 5 years from now, I want to be here. I want to have this house. I want to have this car. I want to do this. 10 years from now, I want to have a family. I want to do this and that. You talk to enough people that are of your age or people that are beyond you in age, you will find very quickly whatever they thought was the good part at that stage of their life where you are at changed. It's not what they thought. It will always evolve, and it will always, if you're trying to balance the I want to get to this goal or the good part, and I just wish I could skip forward to that. It's like if I were to say, okay, I will give you that tomorrow, you're not prepared. I will give you that 20 years from now. What did you miss? And I think that is something that people can take away from this episode of, can we skip to the good part? You better fucking not do that. Because there is enough stuff happening in your everyday life, and there's enough stuff happening at Thanksgiving that you can appreciate the memories that you will create if you appreciate your day-to-day and enjoy the moments you're in, so that when you get to what you're, again, this is again a metaphor, when you get to the Christmas season, you have Thanksgiving memories, and you can literally leave Thanksgiving. You can leave that moment of your life, that experience, and say, I can't wait for the next time I see you. I can't wait till we make this better. And those different holidays, the different stages in life really can be impactful and build off of each other, so that if all you're looking at is this goal that you think you have, that you know you have, and it won't change over the next month, 12 months, 12 years. If you're that short-sighted, that's the irony of this. If you're that short-sighted of the future and you want to skip to the good part, you sold yourself short at that moment, because you don't even fucking know what's going to happen when you get to the good part.
The good part is now. Right now is the good part.
Mikey's
you know,
I love it.
We hanging out with you, Steve and Nate, for me is the good part. It is the enjoyable part of the day. Right now is the best moment currently in existence that we have to treat every moment like it's that. Right now is the good part. Right now, that call you have to make to an account for whatever reason is the good part. The enjoyment with your family around the dinner table is the good part. I was in our warehouse in Minnesota this last 2 weeks ago. I was up for a week in Minnesota visiting our warehouse, visiting our people, and spending time helping out the warehouse for cigars and the wholesale side of things. And I wouldn't go into the warehouse, which normally I'd be there at about 8:00. I wouldn't go into the warehouse until I had breakfast with the little ones. You guys probably know Rob from Bovida. Rob Gagne is a good friend of mine. And I wouldn't skip breakfast with his daughter. I wouldn't skip that. That was the important part of the trip for me. I could see accounts. I can call accounts. I can visit accounts. But that was my thing, was visiting and having breakfast before going in to the warehouse to
appreciate the moment.
Cigars for that. Yeah, you have to be in the moment. You can't live anywhere else, and the hard part's enjoying it, but you can, and you have to make the most out of it. Like you said, it's just, you have to be present, you have to be aware, you have to be striving for something, and then doing that will propel you towards your success, is making sure your moments count.
Nate?
I'm going to give Jonathan Herring credit because I had written it down and he posted it in the comments.
I'm seeing the comments.
I was like, damn it, Jonathan, you stole my closing remark or part of it.
Go ahead and read it and make your point, because I didn't bring it up on the screen.
No, in the TV show The Office, the character Andy, he had a really good line. He said, "I wish someone would tell us when we're in the good old days before they're gone." Yeah. Because the good old days might be what you're in now. They may have already passed, but you didn't realize that those were the good old days, and so you may have taken them for granted. And I kind of think back, since we're talking about the holidays, like I remember, going to the holidays, with grandparents and everything, and there being so many people and, all the little kids running around and it, just feeling hectic. And then like on my dad's side of the family, both of his parents have passed. Well, after they both passed, we as a family on my dad's side, we haven't gotten together, all the family, for a holiday.
You're missing the glue,
because the patriarch and matriarch both passed away. So now each one of their kids now has their own holiday get-togethers, because now they're the patriarch or matriarch, and so you kind of didn't necessarily, sometimes you may not have appreciated at the time the getting together with family when you were younger.
Yeah.
But now that you can't get together with some of those people, like you kind of miss that. You kind of wish you could go back to that. And I know sometimes the holidays can be difficult for my mom, because after my stepdad passed away a couple of years ago, she moved to North Carolina. All of her family lives within 45 minutes of here. So like getting together for holidays and birthdays once a month, like that was easy because everyone lived in close
Victoria's the same, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Everyone lived in close proximity to one another, so it was easy to get together. At one point, my mom and I lived 5 minutes away from each other, and then once I got married and we moved, then all of a sudden we weren't hanging out as much as we used to, because then we literally thought that driving 30 minutes was a chore. and now my mom lives 6 hours away, and so we don't get to.
You talk on the phone?
Yeah, we talk. We'll text each other, we'll message each other, but we don't get together like we used to. Now she does make an effort. When she does come into town, she'll let me know when she's coming into town, and we'll go out to lunch together.
Yeah.
And that's something that's new. It's different because when she was living here, like we didn't really get together for meals like that. But now that she's not here, and when I say not here, not living here, it's harder to do that.
More appreciation. You get more appreciation for that. You have that dinner with your mom that is wonderful with everybody surrounding, and those dinner time hangouts are really important.
But I really miss the days when, especially when I lived closer to my mom and stepdad, like being able to go over and the three of us, or my wife included, like we'd go over and we'd sit on the patio. My stepdad and I would have a cup of coffee and smoke cigars, and the four of us would sit out on the patio and play cards. Mm-hmm. That was fun. And I realized at the time, like that was a lot of fun to do. But then he passed away very unexpectedly and quick. Well, he got sick unexpectedly. He passed away very quickly, which was expected once he got sick. But then you just kind of miss those days, those nights of, just doing the little things like playing cards or playing triominoes. Like we miss that stuff. And we took it for granted because little did we know those were the good old days. So now the goal going forward is to make the days going forward the good old days.
Yeah.
Make each day going forward still part of the good old days.
Love that.
Mm-hmm. You have to figure out an intentional way to make, the present feel important and wonderful and magical, like a Disney sense, magical. You want to make right now feel that way. And, you got to figure out ways to make it happen.
And I also like what Steve said about you, Mike, and your journey with, Mikey's Lights It Co. If all of a sudden you had immediate success the very next day, talk about like you're not ready for that. I think a great real life example of that is when we hear about these like Mega Millions lottery winners and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like why do so many people that win tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in a lottery, why do they go broke within 5 or 10 years? Because the whole time leading up to that, they didn't know how to handle money. They were very bad at handling money. When you throw money at them, guess what? They're still the exact same person. It just now has more zeros attached to it.
Correct.
Because they didn't learn how to be able to handle a little bit. And now you throw a lot at them. They don't know how to handle a lot because they never learned how to handle a little.
Yeah. If you were to give me a yacht tomorrow for doing my job, if you'd be like, $1 million salary for, what you do, I would have too many boats. I wouldn't have a good direction of what to do with them. Yeah, I'd be with an Amber Heard. She'd be shitting in my bed. I'd have shit in my bed for fun.
Like that.
And that's not my life. I don't want shit in my bed. I would just want my bed to be my bed.
I was going to say who wants shit in their bed, but I'm sure there's some people out there. Everyone's into some.
Everybody's into weird shit, but I'm not into that weird shit.
Oh, yeah, I think you're in the good company there.
I surround myself with it.
what I'll say with this is that you guys made some great closing remarks. I truly do think that the big thing is that when you get to this can we skip to the good part? I think we're all in the same boat of it would be nice, but there's always a but. I like to use yet you really need to keep that compass clear of where do you want to go and how do you get there, because whatever you think the next good part is, you don't know shit. You have goals are great, but if you don't put the hard work in, you don't appreciate the day to day, you don't let yourself be humble, you don't think that, if you think you're entitled to the good part, which is I think a big thing right now, is that a lot of people feel like it's coming and it'll come no matter what you do. You got to put the work in, you got to put the effort in. Relationships, your career, your own personal, whatever you think the trajectory is. But you got to have this mindset, I think, sometimes where if someone waved a magic wand and it gave you the good part tomorrow, you're not ready. And if you have this mindset of, I want to get to this point of whatever the arena is in your life, whatever aspect of your life it is, you will not ever get there, because all your focus is basically the good part, and you will lose. Things will flake off. The good things that are around you, they'll flake off because all you're doing that, and you're sacrificing possibly the wrong things. Sometimes you sacrifice the right things that are holding you back, right? If you're around, you surround yourself with people that don't believe in your goals, that's a problem. But if people are supporting that, and like, where do you want to go in your life? Where do you want to go in your career? Where are we going in our relationship? Yeah, but I want to get to this point. It's like, yeah, but it's the same thing. You have to give that day-to-day effort so that you can get there. It's not like, oh, I deserve this other position. I deserve this. I think that we'll get to there, and it'll be great when we're like, to you. I'm not saying this directed at you, Mikey, but it's like we'll be so happy when we're married. It's like, well, are we happy now? Are we happy as we build up to it? All of these things is like, you have these goals, this mindset of like, let me skip to the good part when I have the white picket fence and the kids, the 2.4 kids, and like, we all have nice cars, we have all this American dream that we think of, and it's like the same thing. We go back to that trivial thing where we kind of make light of it. It's like, I want to get to that next vacation. I want to get to the next holiday. I don't care about this holiday. It's like, well, let's care about this holiday. The next one coming up, it's on the calendar, whether it's Hallmark or not. But it's like, Thanksgiving. I am super thankful for the fact that Thanksgiving has not been canceled in this country because of what it was based on. We've talked only about the fact that Thanksgiving is about giving thanks for what you have. And I've introduced a couple of years ago about what will you be thankful for next year? What's your goal? Balance that out with all that stuff. You have that mentality. You have the plan that will always change. But I do think that if you do what you guys are talking about and really appreciate some of the things that you're going through and what will get you to your goals and where you can get to that good part, I'm still, as I said earlier, you don't know what the true good part can be where you're at right now. And I think that's the big part of it, is that if you have the goals, you got to start working on them and work backwards. And I'll tell you, the good part will probably be better than you ever expected if you really work at it now and going forward and really appreciate. And Mikey, you brought that in. The people that are important to you, you don't necessarily need to know what's going on in the world. You need to know what's going on in their world, and they need to know what's going on in your world. And I think that's your first building block of a very successful getting to the good part in life. But if you have appreciation, you may not even realize that you're in a good part, that 5 years ago, the younger you didn't know you're in that position. So thank you very much, Mikey.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for everybody who's listening. Pleasure, 100%.
Absolutely.
The delight is mine. It's been a great time. So
different cigar podcast, yeah?
No, I love it. I mean, as like we were working out an idea for a podcast, do X, Y, and Z. It's like, this is great. I love the thought behind putting taking a question, a topic, and making that into like a real thing of discussion. How does it feel to hit the peak of your performance? How does it feel to meet the peak of your existence in an industry? You know, this is bourbon and cigars, of course, but it's that end goal is much different than you think it is when you're not connected. It's a completely different thing. You know, cigar reps don't get off by being out at a store and saying hi to the manager once, you know, every 2 months. It's not the goal.
Absolutely.
The goal is to create a relationship in which you can come back and work with them and feel out what their needs are and feel out what they're looking for and make sure that your relationship is at that top level. Terrence mentioned it as like a marriage, that top level where it's like, hey, I don't need to call you every day because I know you're not cheating on me.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, absolutely. And there's a common goal. Everyone benefits and it's a successful relationship. All right, guys. Happy whiskey.
How we do it.
Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Cheers.
Salud, boys.
Salute. Guys, enjoy your week. We'll see you guys next week. We got another great guest next week, so we look forward to that and hope you guys tune in.